This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A warm welcome to all the kids that are watching from all over the world. So we're currently at Avian in Ghana, and we've just located a herd of elephants that does look like they're on their way towards a waterhole. So I'm going to be your ranger today. I'm Nikki, and with me on the camera is Owen. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is, because of the direction of these elephants, I'm just going to slightly move back, and then we'll focus on the road because there's a good chance that they might just cross in this open area in front of us. So let's just have a look at this one, see where it might be off to, but I think once it starts getting a bit closer, we'll move back and see if they can cross. You can see that one is putting up his trunk up into the air. I know it's hard to see, but what I'm going to do now, all we have to do here is we'll just have to be a little bit patient, because you'll notice a few of the elephants are actually coming through. Conrad, I do agree, it is a magnificent animal, especially the youngsters, very, very cute. There's quite a few coming. Oh, there's this very, very small baby coming as well. Look at that. Okay, what I'm going to do, see the mother's lifting up her trunk. So what they are doing now is they're smelling basically where the water is. So I'm going to just move back a bit. Well, I'm not going to move actually. I'm just having a look right in front of us. There's a youngster pretty soon going to cross the road. If they do get a little bit closer, we will move back, but we just want to keep a comfortable distance between us and these elephants. So let's count how many goes. Okay, I'm just going to lower my head a little bit more here. There's quite a few, so there's 2 that has gone through. Megan, I agree, look at how beautiful. Look at this one. He's quite keen for a little drink. He's on his way. And look at the little one after the mum now. Just have a look at how small this one is that's coming out. So it does look like a little family unit that's just crossed. So we're going to try and see if we can possibly reposition here, see if we can get maybe another glimpse of these elephants going down to the water. But while we do that, we're going to send you across to Dylan at Tswalu Kalahari and hear if he has an update for us. And also, let him just introduce himself to everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Tswalu Kalahari. Glad you could join us again. You've got Yandre on the back there behind the camera, and myself, Dylan. Between the two of us, we're going to try explore this region again for you. And yeah, this afternoon we're going to take a bumble around this area. It's a completely different location to where we were the past couple of days. And so excuse my radio, the guys just giving us updates over there. And we're going to see if we can locate some lions. Maybe it's going to be a bit of a challenge this time in terms of the thickness of the vegetation and that. But let's give it a full bash. And again, please feel free to ask us any questions, engage us, whether it's about plants, animals, birds, insects, the actual physical environment that we're in. It's just going to be exciting to get out there. You'll notice there's a lot more grass cover in these areas, which can make tracking a little bit more challenging. And yeah, and those of you who've been saying that this is a gorgeous landscape, you're totally right. I mean, just look at it. And it's only going to get better now. The sky is completely clear. It's been a crystal clear day since about 11 o'clock. The clouds have all moved out, except there's some on the far northern horizon there. But otherwise, it's a magnificent afternoon. I love this coming out. It's like a clean slate. You're starting from scratch. You don't know where everything is. Perry, that mirage this morning was spectacular. And you know, it's something that you go out and you can't plan it, and you really need those ideal conditions for the mirage to form, so that, you know, that super cold air sitting on the ground and then the ground warming up quickly. So Yandra and I, we were like really just hoping it would last long enough for us to actually be able to get it. But it just worked out beautifully. So I'm really glad, because that's something that a lot of people haven't actually experienced. And yeah, and again, there's lots more like those kind of things out here. So I think while we carry on down here, we're going to head over to Tristan and see what they can find for you guys on that side. We'll catch up later.
Well, good luck, Dylan. Hopefully you'll find your lions that side. As you can see, we have, well, two creatures almost making friends with one another. So in the front is a dwarf mongoose, and in the back is a squirrel, and neither one is taking, well, I mean, the mongoose is watching us more than anything else, but the squirrel is watching this mongoose as if to say, what are you? You're not quite like me, but close. And cool to see them in the same frame, because it's really tricky for us often to describe sizes of things, which you can see that the dwarf mongoose is actually bigger than the squirrel, slightly. It's got a bigger head and body, but normally squirrels don't sit still at all. Dwarf mongoose are quite common for them. Oh no, it's gone down in the dwarf mongoose's hole. No. What are you doing in there, squirrel? Even the dwarf mongoose is like, what is that? Uninvited visitor. Very cheeky. Now, normally squirrels don't use holes in the ground. They're normally tree-based animals. They utilize those areas. But maybe these guys are best of friends, and it's a tea party. What is today? It's Wednesday tea day. Exactly. The dwarf mongoose is shocked. But maybe the rest of the dwarf mongoose inside are having visitors today, and we've just caught the squirrel fraternizing with the enemy, so to speak. But yeah. First time I've ever seen a squirrel run down into a dwarf mongoose little burrow. Anyway, my name is Tristan, as Dylan mentioned. On camera, I've got BK this afternoon, and that's an interesting start to our day, that's for sure. I have no idea, like I say, what that squirrel is doing down there, but it's definitely a new one for me, that's for sure. Anyway, is this one the blind one? Does it have a blind eye, or is it just the sun catching it? Maybe just the sun catching it. There's the squirrel popped up in the background. No, it looks alright. There's the squirrel. Look at that. What are you doing, squirrel? Have you become a dwarf mongoose now? Ridiculous. Okay, well, we're going to watch what these two get up to and whether or not they become friends. In the meantime, though, let's send you to And Beyond Ingala. Sounds like they've got something infinitely larger than these guys.
So we just came back to where those elephants are, and the area that we had to approach, we almost have this backlit from the sun as we, or the way that we've positioned so that the sun is literally in front of us. But have a look at how beautiful it is in the silhouettes of these elephants. You might even see the golden colors in the water. I think, Owen, if we can focus on that one right in the middle there, because you can actually see how the water is lit up, and you can also see a bit of the dust now from some of the elephants dust bathing themselves. So I'm just trying to be quiet so you can hear the elephants in the water. You might hear the ears, as well as like when they drink water, how the water just flops back, or all the droplets just fall onto the surface of the water. Liam, age 14, that's a very good question you asked. So normally, like elephants, especially the young males, they'll start getting pushed out of the herd once they get to around about 16 years of age. The females stay with the herd their whole life. But when you mean independent is, so it can go like quite a few ways. So I'd like to just have a little bit of a discussion about it. So normally elephants, especially the babies, they'll suckle up to 2.5 years. And then from there, they're not as dependent on mom's milk anymore. So then they rely heavily on grass, maybe some soft leaves, a few branches, maybe here, a bark or two. And probably independent would be from the mothers in that once they get to around about the age of 9, 10. But normally the young bulls get pushed out at 16. Now also the other thing you need to consider, depending on the area where the elephants are, let's say if someone to the herd and only of the age of 11, 12 remained, the chances are, unless that little one could memorize and remember all the water holes, or all the good areas to feed on, especially in dry times, the chances are very unlikely that it could survive. You'll see the mothers or the matriarchs that lead the herd, they have this infinite knowledge of all the right places to go to find water. If there's fire, they know where to take the herd for safety. If there's a drought, they know exactly where to go for water. And so, with the elephants here, we also have the buffalo right over there. But what we're going to try and do is, I'll try and stick a little bit longer with these elephants. But while we do that, let's send you across to Tristan.
Well, I'm absolutely fascinated by these two just hanging out together. I was going to carry on, but there's just something funny about watching the two of them basically just chill together. We've decided that they are friends, Emma and I, and we've decided that this is Bridge Club. They're having a little card game, and so they meet up and then have a little afternoon tea on a Wednesday just to break up the week. And that these two have spent their childhood growing up near each other, and so they seem nothing wrong with being two different species. No, I'm joking. I have absolutely no idea why they're together. The really interesting part about it is that there's not a single other dwarf mongoose that I can see anywhere. Now, we know these guys are generally social. They live in small family groups, and normally when you turn a car off, you start to see them popping up in all kinds of places around you, and particularly areas where there's these little holes, you start to see little heads coming out, much like that squirrel. But this particular dwarf mongoose seems to be on his own. The squirrel's on its own, and I have absolutely no idea why the squirrel has gone down firstly into the little hole in the ground, and secondly that it's just staying there. Squirrels generally don't stick around for long. They kind of sit and they watch, and then they scurry off to the nearest tree where they know they're much safer. But what I was thinking is that potentially, maybe a bird of prey had flown over and we just didn't see it, and that's what gave these guys a little bit of a fright. And so the squirrel just went in there for safety, and now is just too worried about moving because we're sitting here, and maybe that's why it's staying. Emma's saying no, definitely Bridge or Uno. I'm sure a lot of the kids watching at this stage of the drive won't have the foggiest what Bridge is, but most of you should know what Uno is after this lockdown period. Did our squirrel just drop back down? It would have, because there was a hornbill that flew over. You just see the top of its head. But the mongoose, you can see, is really not fazed by this at all. It's completely happy with the squirrel being around. It's kind of lying down. It's almost having a little sunbathe on a fairly chilly afternoon. It's the coldest afternoon we've had, that's for sure. Now, come on, squirrel. Let's see if it goes towards the little hole. Nope. Happy to just turn around. Is that squirrel still there, or did it go back down and hasn't come up again? Or is that the top of its head? I can't see nicely. Its little nose is still there. I want to see if the mongoose will go up to it, and then they'll see each other and what will actually happen, because the mongoose seems completely non-fazed by this little squirrel. Oh, there we go. Look at this. What are you two doing? Mongoose has chased the squirrel out of the hole, obviously, but oh, now they're just going to chill together. I mean, theoretically, there's no reason why they shouldn't. I mean, I know dwarf mongoose are carnivores and eat meat, but a squirrel is really a similar size, and so the chance of the mongoose actually hurting that squirrel is pretty slim. There we go, squirrel's out of here. Squirrel's like, no, holes on the ground are not for me, trees it is, and off it went. Bizarre. Yusuf, who's 9 years old. So mongoose is a dangerous thing to certain animals. If you're a scorpion, if you're a snake, if you're a little grub on the ground, then a mongoose is exceedingly dangerous. But for a squirrel who's the same size, probably not. You know, it's obviously there's always a risk of injury when you tackle something your same size. And I can attest to the fact that squirrels have the most incredibly powerful teeth. They eat all kinds of nuts and they're able to break open the seeds and get to them. And I once had a squirrel at Chitwa, and this story is funny but equally terrifying and still haunts me to this day. But basically the one day I had guests that were coming into the lodge, and we used to take their luggage and we would take it to the rooms, and then the guests would be taken to their rooms after they had signed their indemnities and all those kinds of things. And so basically I take the luggage and I go along the pathway, and there on the pathway is this squirrel. But I feel really bad because the squirrel looks like it's got a broken back. So its back two legs are not working at all, and it's dragging itself across the path. So I think to myself, no, we can't have this. Firstly, it's not nice to see an animal in distress like that. Secondly, it's not the best welcome for guests to arrive to a maimed squirrel kind of dragging along the path. It sort of sends an ominous tone for the rest of the trip. So I was like, no, we need to move the squirrel, we need to just check it out and see what we can do, see if we can help it. So I go and I'm like, well, you know what, it's injured on its back legs, so if I pick it up gently by the tail, and then I can just take it to the office and we can see what we can do about it. So I pick it up by the tail, thinking that this little squirrel is going to not do anything because it looks tired and it hasn't moved with me walking there. But as I pick it up, this thing loses the plot and somehow does this ninja karate double twist over thing and latches onto my finger with full force, bite. And it grabs on the end of my finger, and it's painful. I'm not going to lie to you. Those little things it's sore when they bite you. So out of just sheer kind of shock of being bitten, I go like this, and as I go like this, the squirrel lets go and goes flying into the bushes. So now I'm feeling, not only am I irritated that I've been bitten, but now I feel equally completely guilty that I've now flung a squirrel into the bushes. And so I went back to try and find the little squirrel in the bushes as the guests walk past. So now the guests are walking past, and there's this crazy guy with head first into a bush, scrounging around, looking as though he's digging for something in amongst it. Very awkward to explain to them what had just happened, and they gave me that kind of side look like, I don't really believe this guy, he's a weirdo. And I don't know where the squirrel went. The squirrel disappeared. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was feigning injury, but this silly little thing ended up biting me and drawing blood. I had blood coming from my fingers. It was terrible. And then I was worried that I might have gotten rabies, because squirrels can carry rabies. Oh, it was a traumatic time for me in my life. I got judged by guests and got maimed by a squirrel. I know, hardcore guy, don't I? Anyway, enough about silly squirrel sales. Let's send you back across to Nikki with those Ellies. It sounds like they're now dust bathing.
So we're just having a look at these two youngsters on the side, and you'll just see a lot of the dust as they are like using their feet just to loosen the soil and then grabbing hold of it and flicking it onto themselves. And with the golden light, it's pretty amazing to watch. So you'll see now. Owen, so see there on the bank, there's actually two off to the... Oh, look at that one. Actually just sat down on the side of the bank. I think there might be a little itch, or do you think he's trying to maybe just have a quick little nap before he carries on? So, Owen, if I can let you focus, so have a look on the ones off to the right here. It's so beautiful, like the rest of the herd is moving, and you'll see that one is just scuffing up quite a lot of the dust as we speak. Yusuf, age 9, really good question. So those things you see in the front or between the elephant's trunk is actually called tusks. So it's modified teeth, where horns basically grow out of the skull, where this one grows out of the mouth. But so with those tusks, especially, you'll see some of the older elephants, the way that they often use them as a tool, they sharpen them quite a bit. So they are pretty sharp, some of the older elephants. Also some of the youngsters, you'll see when they come out, they're quite sharp, almost looks like a pointed spear. How beautiful the colors. You'll just see the autumn colors in the back. It's from a tree known as the red bush willow. And then, of course, just look at the color of the dust coming off this elephant. So there's a little elephant now that's actually trying to charge 2 buffalo bulls. So see that one right there? So there's 2 buffaloes just laying right of it. And that elephant is trying to intimidate them, but they don't feel very intimidated at all. He probably knows that mom is directly behind. So there's the 2 buffalo laying down. So that elephant basically tried to chase them off. You can now see, look at how he's using his trunk, where there's a bit of grass right next to him. So see, we're just going to go closer to this one here. You'll see there's a bit of grass, but he'll look. And now the buffaloes don't move, and so he's probably going to turn around, just make sure that mom's still behind me. And so this is often behavior you see from elephants. So as they start getting older, they try and build confidence by chasing other animals. Now, normally when they do that with Impala and birds, and of course they will fly off. But these buffaloes are nearly twice the size of that little elephant, so they're not even budging. So I think he's lost a little bit of interest, realized that they're not going to go anywhere. Seth, age 12, very good question. So elephants, normally in the wild, they'll get up to 60 years. Sometimes it could be a little bit more, and sometimes a little bit less. But normally how they eventually pass away is because their teeth are so worn down. So they have these 6 sets of teeth that grow out every 10 years. And after that, their teeth aren't replaced anymore. So because of that, they can't properly digest their food. And eventually from there on, they'll die of starvation. So it's pretty sad to see that. But you can imagine with them eating so much food in a day. Like, I mean, this little one, once it grows up, and let's say it's a big male, it will probably have to eat close to 300 kilograms of food a day. So imagine 600 pounds of food. See that little elephant is making his way back to the buffalo. You can see how he raises his ears, pick up his trunk, shakes his ears, trying to intimidate the buffalo, but they don't feel intimidated at all. I'm sure if the mom had to do that, the buffalo would have gotten up. So while we're going to carry on here, what we'll also do is if these elephants do decide to move off, we'll also carry on. And remember, as we said to the kids this morning, we'll do a little rocket stove to show them how to do that. So we can then carry on and maybe see if we can start doing or preparing our rocket stove. But while we do that, let's send you across to Tswalu Kalahari, to Dylan.
So very fortunately, what we came across as we were driving along here, we were hoping to pick up some lion tracks or something. but we came across this most remarkable fruit. Get the old knees down there. Eh? So this is, it's actually still attached to the vine. This is called a Sama melon, and that's actually one of the local, with the name for it that we, even in our literature we use it, but it's actually a Sama word. I'm just going to get, and you see it's attached to these long vines, just to show that I didn't place it here. It's attached to a long vine, and there's a couple more on that end over there. There's actually some further up the road as well. And I'm going to take this one off. You can see the plant is completely dried out, dead. So these are actually now ready to be dispersed. It looks like a small watermelon. See, you can get a nice idea of the size of it from my hand and my head. And what we'll do is we'll actually cut this one open. I want to show you something really cool in terms of the seeds. A number of years ago, I found one slightly larger than this. And just out of interest, I wanted to see what the seed content is on a thing like this. And I counted just over 1,400 seeds inside one fruit. And you can imagine any plant that's producing that amount of seed must have a very good reason for doing it. And we put once it cuts it open, we put it outside, and the squirrels, the ground squirrels, like the ones that we saw this morning, they polished off every single one of those seeds. So I think having a lot of seeds, these guys are just trying to hedge their bets. If they get fed on, whether it's by a large herbivore or a small thing, that hopefully some of the seeds actually survive. But to show you what it looks like inside, without cutting my fingers off, I'm just going to put it down here. Well, I'm making it easier. Yeah, I'm making it easier for some animal just to come along and gobble this up later. Will help some ground squirrel, I'm sure. Look at that. Trying to get a nice angle there for the sun. So you can see lots and lots and lots of seeds, and it's in some ways it does look like a kiwi, just a larger version of it. A larger version of it. Old Jandra's laughing his head, and that's like one of those bad slips. So while you're on. But anyway, so with that humour aside, I'm going to actually take out a piece here. And because I've tasted this so much, I'm going to give it to Jandre, and he can taste it and tell us what it tastes like. There you go. Oh, he's gobbling it nicely there now. And what's the verdict? He says it's delicious. So I just wanted to see if it's actually poisonous or not, but now that Jandre's eaten it, not bad. It's quite bland, but this one, it's actually got like a sweet flavor to it as well. So really cool. Well, while we start getting the first aid kits out, I'm going to send you over to David. Good.
Hello and welcome to Djuma. We are on our afternoon safari and going to see what we can find you this afternoon. My name is David Hancock and Alex is on camera. We've just stopped in a nice open field looking at some beautiful Impala. A nice open area. Nice to get to these open spots and really get to see for a distance, have a nice visual. It's very hazy this afternoon. We'd struggle to see it on camera, but if you were here with us, you'd see a lot of haze in the sky. There's a lot of smoke. I think there's a fire somewhere, far away from here, but it is coming on the air, perhaps out in outside of the reserve somewhere. You may see that haze in the sky. Our plan this afternoon is to just go for a bumble. Maybe do a little bit of birding, see if we can find a bird that we haven't seen in a while. But as we know in the bush, plans change very quickly. We might pick on some exciting tracks, or something might pop up out of nowhere. Maybe see a tail in a tree or a drag mark like we had yesterday. So who knows what's going to happen this afternoon. Well, as always, lovely to be out here. Excited to see what the afternoon brings. It's kind of like a weird atmosphere this afternoon with this haziness in the sky. It's like I feel like you're in a bit of a movie. It's as if there was a camera on you. Wait. A lot of mood in the air, in the sky. Fire. The bush is not for sissies, and I believe Dylan has experimented with something to eat, so let's go over to him and see if he's still alive.
So we've been experimenting a little bit with these salmon melons, and what we came up with, it was a team effort, is that. So this little guy is now going to join us on all our game drives.
What's his name?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to come up with a we're going to christen it over the next couple of days. We'll come up with a good name, and or in fact we can open it up to viewers. Anyone that wants to name this little salmon melon can come up, and then Yandre and I will choose a name this evening, and then tomorrow morning we will reveal the name of this little guy, and he's going to be with us on every game drive. He'll be looking out, as will we, for cool things out there. So let's carry on up this road and see what we can get, what we can find. Don't go anywhere. Notice the difference in the ground cover. There's a lot more grass in this particular area that we're driving in compared to where we've been driving in on the previous couple of game drives. And they more localized rainfall here this season or the previous season, which would account for more grass growth. And you also do get instances where other vegetation can actually encourage grass growth. So you could get a lot of these acacias with these sharp animals moving into a particular area, which actually gives the grass an opportunity, and it also traps it. So there's a lot of wood or wouldn't get grass. We are approaching a waterhole. It's just a kilometer or so up the road over here, so I'm hoping that we find something there.
Sorry about those comms issues. We've just stopped a little bit further down the road and want to have a little look. This is a lovely vantage point. Nice thing about these open areas, like I've explained, cats like to use them, as do we, because you can see for a far distance. So from here, if there's any elephant or perhaps giraffe or something in the distance, then I'll be able to see them. I'm just grabbing my binoculars. Well, so far is Impala. And they are looking at me like, what is that strange thing up there? And I see a kudu. That is about it for now. It's actually very hazy, so not the greatest vista this afternoon. But a lovely view. Let's carry on down the hill. Onwards and upwards. There's a lot of Impala this afternoon. Little scattered herds. It's amazing, we're not too far from where Hukumuri ate that young Impala. And he's now gone. We saw his tracks on the road, heading into the bush again, so the Impala are back at peace. -1. Run, you say? If you're an Impala, you'd also stand on the top of termite mounds. That's clever. Be able to keep an eye on the predators coming for you. Yeah, sight, smell, and hearing. All the senses out here in the bush. Well, I'm going to carry on. Let's send you over to Tristan and see what he's up to.
Well, we've just managed to get back to Kuchava and her kill. As you can see, not much has changed from this morning. She hasn't moved very much at all. She's just still sitting draped over her carcass. But the good news is just to her left is her little cub. He's well hidden at the moment. You can just see his spots through all of that thick stuff over there. So Not Ned is sitting pretty in that little branchy area over there. So for now we're just seeing spots. I'm sure as the afternoon progresses they'll move and change a little bit, and we'll see a little bit of a kind of difference in their positions, and so we should get a better view of him. This morning I actually did see him briefly before Rusty had its issues, and poor Rusty, I tweeted that Rusty had died. It wasn't Rusty itself. Rusty mechanically was absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with Rusty. It was just that our batteries that basically power all of the equipment on the vehicle, cameras and all of that, died. And so that's why we couldn't do anything, and why we had to head home. But Rusty's absolutely fine. That's why Rusty's out and about this afternoon with us, and everything is perfect now. Batteries are all sorted. And so now we can actually sit and spend time with these two beautiful cats. And I'm, like I say, hoping that at some point she moves a little bit, and then the little cub can come down and have a bit of a feed, and we can actually see him a lot better than what he is right now. Because for now, he's just kind of stuck in there. What are you doing, little one? He's moving at the moment. So let's see if he comes down and whether or not he just... It is amazing that they don't fall out with the precarious positions that they get themselves into. It just goes to show you how well suited they are for it. You know, big broad paws, sharp claws, and a long tail that all helps for them not to fall out. I'm hoping the little one is going to turn and then come back down towards where mom is, and then we'll be able to get to see the little one. That will definitely make for a nice view. Nope, we're going to park back off there. It's probably looking at mom and saying, "Mom, I want to eat. Please move. You are unfortunately in my way." And that you need to get out of the way so that I can go and eat. Little boys can sometimes be a little bit pushy with their mothers when they want to feed. I think he's going to come down, which will be really, really cool to see. Classic little boy as well. Kind of looks with these big eyes as if to say, "Please, please, please, can you move? I'm very, very hungry right now." Even though his tummy is quite round. If you look through the branches, you can see the little round tummy that is in there at the moment. So I just have to watch and see how he negotiates mom. I wouldn't be surprised he's actually growling at her. You can see he's curling his lip up a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes down a bit and tries to pull on the head and kind of pull it towards himself. Sometimes they do that. If it was Kalamba, that's exactly what she would do. She would kind of come down towards the V of the tree and then grab the head with her paws and pull it towards herself and be a little glutton, which might then would have forced Tundi to move a little bit, but he hasn't quite learned that technique just yet. He will eventually. As he gets bigger and stronger, he's going to be a handful for her. Young males get to the same size as their moms pretty quickly, and then life for mom becomes quite difficult. But he's cute. He's got a cute little naughty face. Look. See this little face? What are you doing, silly boy? Shame, he's just coming out of that cub phase and into the cute I'd say cute, but more lanky kind of phase that leopards go through. They have this time in their lives where their paws and their ears and everything just kind of looks odd for them, and then they get quite skinny. It's like as though they sort of suck in, because when they're cubs, they're little puffy balls of fur and spots, and then all of a sudden they start to grow up a bit, and then they become a little bit lanky and a little bit thin and kind of long legs, and they look a bit awkward, and then eventually they fill out and then start to become solid again. So it's just an awkward point from now until they reach about a year old. Once they reach a year old, then they're good. I'm going to go forward a bit because he's popping his head over the branch watching the hyenas. It's actually quite funny to see him do it. The good news is at least he's fairly relaxed, which is nice when he's up in the tree. The light at the moment is a bit tricky because it's coming from the other side of the tree, but the only really open spot that we have is on this side. Hello, girl. Oh, she's pretty. So nice to see her. Her nose is getting darker now as well. It's not as pink as it was. But how pretty is that? Alright, well, it's that time of the day though where we start to change things a little bit. And we are not only answering the kids' questions, although kids don't feel like you need to stop asking. You can still ask as many questions as you have. But for all of you that have joined now or want to ask questions, the rest of you can use #WildEarth or @FC on the YouTube chat stream if you would like to know more about Kuchava or you want to know a little bit more about leopards in general. We'll be here the whole afternoon at this rate. Don't you love how the cub especially looks like it has just been shot? It's gotten to itself into basically a position where it honestly looks as though it's dead, lying like that. Look at how the legs are all just dangling down in the neck as well. It doesn't look comfortable at all. But it looks like he's just given up. He's like, enough, I'm done. I can't even deal with this anymore. I'm just going to lie right here and fall asleep in this position. You're a silly sausage. I can see typical young boy already has this way about him where he's kind of draped over the branches, which is very, very cool. All right, well, we're going to enjoy these two silly sausages as they literally do sausage their afternoon away, and we'll see what they get up to. In the meantime, let's send you across to Nikki. It sounds like he's decided it's cold enough for an afternoon brew.
So I know the afternoon, we've been pretty busy with a lot of amazing animals that have been seen, and as well as for us as after this is an opportunity to go to so many more possible sightings. But before we go, this morning we promised the kids that we'll try and show you how to make a rocket stove in order to boil some water for our coffee this afternoon. There's quite a few treats there as well. Now, just in order to save time, we're not going to be spending too much time going through all of this. Hopefully at some stage we can literally go through some aspects of it on our next drives. But just to show you what we're going to be doing during this time now. Now this over here is just basically a log that I picked up at the lodge. So it had a hole in it. So you can see there's a little hole right through it. So I didn't have to do anything there. But then right over here is I made another hole. So I carved it out with my knife, and basically what we're going to do from here on is we're going to start making a fire inside. And then once the fire starts, it's going to burn all the way through and concentrate it through this section right over here. What we're then going to do from there is we're going to take, once it starts going the fire, we're going to put these little rocks on the side here and then put the kettle on top of it. The reason why we're doing it like this is so that there's a bit of air that goes through so we can get some flames going and then hopefully boil this kettle. Now, right in front of me, there's quite a few things that I've laid out. So the first thing here was a normal cloth that I took, and I made something called char cloth. Now, right over here on this little piece of bark, you'll see there's some, looks like burned cloth. And this is not actually burned, but it's actually made in that way so that as soon as there's a little spark, it will light. Right over here, I have some elephant dung. And then over here, I have something like a little torch. So it's basically a reed that I've opened up, and I've put a bit of elephant dung in here. So as soon as I can get a fire going here, I can basically take this reed, put it inside there, and then feed this stove that we have. And as well, if you're making like this, it's quite dangerous to pull it like this and then blow into this hole, because sometimes if there's a little coal that comes out, it might land on your head and burn you. I've had a few times where I had little patches missing out of my beard or even the top of my head because of a little coal dropping onto me. So because of that, I've actually made a reed. So I took a piece of wire and hollowed the reed out so that when I do need to give it a bit of air, I could do it from here and then blow into this stove and then hopefully generate enough, or there's enough oxygen to generate enough heat so we can get that kettle boiling. So basically what I'm going to try and do is, as I said, we're going to quickly do this, and then once we start getting this going, we'll link you back to some of the other guides, and hopefully by the time we get back, this rocket stove would be going and we can put the kettle on. But I basically want to show you how we're going to start lighting it. So first I'm taking some elephant dung. I made sure that it is very dry. So now the biggest thing here as well is notice the area behind me. So I'm doing this in an area where nothing can catch light. It's really important because fire comes with a lot of responsibility, and you have to really make sure that the area is safe. And also for all the children, there has to be some adults, has to be quite a few adults with you. So all I'm going to do now is just put some elephant dung in here. Just want to make sure it goes all the way through. Put some more elephant dung right over here. Okay, now this char cloth would only with a spark would be able to ignite. So I'm going to just, as we said, so normally I'll show you how to do it. Maybe the next time we can do it with sticks to show you how to start the fire, but we're going to do this quite quickly so we can get it in here and then hopefully start our fire so we can make the coffee. So I'm going to go here, just a bit of a spark onto it. Okay, so now it's going. I'm going to put that over there. Have my elephant dung ready to go. So I'm going to take this char cloth, pick it up, just put it in there. So what I'm going to do now, so there is a bit of a coal going, but I want to speed up the process. I'm going to just add a little bit more into it. So here we go. So I'll be as careful as I possibly can be. So you just want to take that, just get a little bit, I'll just throw in a few branches over here, maybe put in another one in over there. And I think let's quickly light our torch and send it across inside. So it might take us a little while just to get well, not too long hopefully. But what I want to do is just feed this. And hopefully some of the elephant dung that's inside will start burning. Okay, so while we're going to do that, so for the next little while, I'm going to try and take some of this coal and then put it in here. And as soon as it starts going, I'll let everyone know and then we'll come back to it. But while we do that, let's send you across to Tswalu Kalahari with Dylan.
So what we're watching here is really insane. We've seen multiple kills over the past 10 minutes. And if you bear with us, you're probably going to see the kills as well. Watch that bird. It's called the blacksmith lapwing. And you see there, you've got one kill already. Let's see how many we can get you. Second kill, third kill, fourth kill, fifth kill, sixth kill, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And he's still going. So how's that? You know, you think you've got to go out. If you want to see a kill, okay, it's lions and leopards and hyenas and wild dogs and caracal and things like that. This bird is predating on these little water insects, or these flying insects that are landing on the water surface. We followed him from where he's standing now up to the front of the vehicle, just feeding the whole way, catching insects, and then he came and lay down on the bank for 2-3 minutes, got up, moved back to the edge of water and started going back again. And it's just catching one after the other, catching one after the other. Good one, Rosemary. He's a serial killer. Unfortunately, there's no cornflakes along the edge there. It's only insects, so he can't be a serial killer. No, that's a good one, a serial killer. But how's that? So it just shows that, you know, it doesn't matter where you go. You can move away from just looking at big stuff and actually start when you dig down into any ecosystem, any environment. There are untold number of interactions going on in any given moment, and very often you just overlook them, you just pass them by and not realizing that everything is just fighting for survival out here. It doesn't matter how big or how small it is, doesn't matter what kind of growth form it is, you know, whether it's trees, it could be fungus, it could be mammals, reptiles, anything. Everything out here is a struggle for survival. And we've just seen a lovely example of that. Those little flying insects are coming down. They may be trying to, pair up or mate. And suddenly you've got this lapwing onto them. And that's it, game over. And that's what it's about. You know, it's all these things, you know. It's just... Ooh. Apparently there's a leopard kill. I'm not sure where it is. I didn't get it, but apparently there's leopards killed. So I think they head over there. We're going to keep tabs on our lapwing and his serial killing spree.
Well, yes, I don't think these leopards have been quite as successful as your lapwing, Dylan, but they've certainly tried, and their efforts have made them incredibly sleepy. Kuchava's face right now is the picture of happy, content, fat, sleepy cat. She's making me laugh because of how she's sleeping. Obviously has taught her son well, because he was being the little clown earlier, and look at that. Is that not just the sweetest face and a picture of happiness? I feel like if you had to put happiness into a picture, that would be it. But she's just got her head like perfectly positioned, her two little paws in front, and this little face, and it almost looks like she's smiling as she has a little rest. Isn't that cute? Oh, that's cool. You two are being great this afternoon. It's a pity that the light is not as good as we'd want it to be. If that light was just around a little bit and we were getting a bit of sunlight on them, it would be really nice. But there's nothing wrong with the leopard posing like that. There's something so special about spending time with leopards when they're up in trees and they're trying to make things look comfortable. There you can see their victim. Looked like a fairly decent-sized female. And they've still got a long way to go. It doesn't look like they've actually eaten too much during the course of the day since we were here this morning. I suspect that they are going to still be here tomorrow morning. I don't know if they're going to be too far at this stage by tomorrow morning. Andromeda, I couldn't agree more. It's an incredibly smart move to find one a headrest and then just basically put your head on there and take it easy. Not quite as smart as Hosana. I mean, she does have a meat pillow for her bottom, but she doesn't have a meat pillow for her head. Hosana was much better in that his meat pillow was, I think, a lot more comfortable in the head area, but she's almost sitting on a cushion. You see, now she's just opened her eyes as if to say, meat pillow? Why haven't I not thought of that? Maybe I should employ myself a meat pillow and lie on it. Yes, Kuchava, we were talking about meat pillows. But look at that. No, there's very few things that will beat meat pillow. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, we had this male leopard called Hosana, which I'm sure you guys have heard us referencing regularly of late. Because of how incredible he was and how entertaining he was. But at one point he managed to have a kill and he got a little piece of meat. And I think it was with James. It was with James. And he put this piece of meat on the branch and then proceeded to put his head on it, just like a pillow. And so that's where meat pillow comes from. He was a pioneer in it. And I actually think he probably could have been a millionaire if he had just sold that to the rest of his leopard kind. I'm pretty sure a lot of them would have taken up meat pillow. Except the problem with meat pillow is that it gets eaten, which I suppose is good for business. If you're going to be in the business world, you want it to be consumable, because then, you know, you've got return guests or return clients all the time. So 2-for-1 special, I think it's a good idea. Maybe that's why Hosana has gone into the premium areas of the Savi Sands now. His meat pillow business has boomed, and so he can afford to now go and stay in the upper end of the Savi Sands. Of course, I'm just talking absolute nonsense, but you know how it goes. You can see she's just having a little scratch. You'll probably find that there's the odd tick or something like that that's been on her neck, and this is just making the perfect little scratching post. Don't see it that often with cats using branches to scratch themselves. It's more a buffalo, elephant, rhino kind of deal, but, you know, convenience, and why not make do with something that's right there? Shame, she must be fairly uncomfortable. She's been lying up that tree, as far as we know, since last night. I wonder if at some point she's not going to come down. Nancy saying, darn that leopard capitalism. I know, right? But I feel like if anyone deserves it, it's Hosana. He certainly paid his dues in coming up as a celebrity in order to give himself some street cred when he needed to go and sell his products. So he paid his way, that's for sure. I don't think, I mean, I say this with all due respect to every other leopard, but I don't think we've had a leopard quite like that, in terms of the ability to entertain for as many drives as he did. It was almost a daily thing with him. It was actually quite unbelievable to see how many sightings we had with him that turned into highlights of the different guides and presenters' careers over the period of the time that he was with us. The amount of times we had him with other leopards, we had him clowning around, we had him interacting with another animal species, just general kind of epic views of him. I mean, it was really amazing to witness, and I know that there's relaxed leopards all throughout this ecosystem, and every lodge will say their leopard is the best, but I honestly can tell you that Hosana was just unbelievable. The thing about it also, I think, is that we just spent so much more time with him than anybody would normally spend with leopards. You know, when you're with guests, it's not that easy to go and sit for 2.5 hours or 3 hours with a leopard. People, you know, are here for short periods of time, and so they like to see the variety of what we see out here, which is, I mean, amazing. We have huge biodiversity, as is evidenced by the things that we talk about, from, you know, insects to trees to birds to the mammals. And so you don't tend to spend huge amounts of time with leopard unless you've got people that really are leopard crazy, like most of us are. And so your time spent with a single individual is that much less. I think the one amazing thing about what we do is that we get to spend quite a lot of time with leopards, even like this, where they're just relaxing, but it allows us to witness behavior and to really get to almost feel like we have a connection with them in many respects, and that is a very special thing. And it's not only for us as guides, like I say, it's for all of you. I mean, some of you have been watching certain leopards for longer than any of us that have been working here, which is crazy, you know. I mean, if you think about the days of Karula, many of you watched her pretty much her entire life. So it's a pretty amazing thing, not only for us, but that we can share it with all of you, which is why it would be really nice if we could continue this for as long as possible. So if you have been enjoying it and you have been one of those that have really started to get into the leopard dynamics and all of the things that we've been showing you over the last few years and months, then please consider supporting us. It really goes a long way to keeping things running and for us to keep going, to be able to show you the amazing things that we do. You can just follow the link that is being displayed on the screen now, and that will give you all the information that you need. But it's an absolute treat, like I say. I mean, you never know. This young male leopard could be the next Hosana for us. Unfortunately, I don't know if he will be, just given that he grows up in an area we don't have a lot of his traverse. I think that was the one thing with Hosana that really allowed us such an amazing view into his life. And Shongile, I mean, we mustn't forget Shongile, because she was a huge integral part of that first year and a half of the Hosana kind of story, if you want to just look at his side of things. And she was equally incredible as a leopard. And so the two of them together was just the most phenomenal thing to witness and to watch. And the way that they kind of responded to what we ended up doing in terms of bushwalks and cars, and they became so relaxed. It was just the most fascinating thing to watch. But to have those two cats kind of centered to the area that we drive around was the key, is that they pretty much were on our side, 70 to 80% of their life. Whereas this young male, he's going to be spending a lot of time on cheetah plains, torchwood, nets, and that's going to make it a little bit more tricky for us to spend nearly as much time with him as we did with Hosana and Shongile. But in saying that, you never know. Maybe he ends up coming onto Djuma at some point and spending a lot of time. We know Kuchava at times has been into our southwestern corners, so who knows. Okay, well, we're going to carry on sitting with our two very, very sleepy cats. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Nikki and see what he's up to.
So we just put the kettle on, but you'll probably be able to see on the side there's quite a bit of a flame that's now coming out of it. So the hole is right over here. We actually positioned it because the wind is coming from this side, so it actually blows oxygen in, and because of that, you might even be able to hear. I'm going to take the mic and go move a little bit closer to the kettle, you might even hear the water starting to boil. So I don't think it's going to be too long, but if I pick it up, you might see flames coming out of the little rocket stove. So basically what happens here is with this log now, so we don't have to feed it anymore because it actually starts burning from the inside, and that hole that we had at the top, so it's forcing all the heat into that central point, so you're not losing any of the heat outside. And because of that, it will let the kettle boil a lot quicker than trying to make a big fire all around. So I just want to make sure that once we're done, we'll pour some water over it, and then we'll take that log back to the lodge and we'll put it on the fire tonight. But I don't think it's going to be long. I already start seeing a bit of smoke coming out from this side of the kettle. Now, in this case, where it might start slowing down, is I can just use that reed of mine. Dove, I agree, it is sizzling nice. So what I can do now, in order to just get it going again, of course, that little reed that I have, just start blowing in. Well, I think the flame might have died, but there's still quite a lot of heat. If I don't have any, so what we'll do now, oh, there the kettle's going again. It's actually caught a bit of a flame. So we didn't bring any tea, but what we brought with is, so I said to Owen, if we can start this fire or start it like that, we'll bring something quite delicious with. So here, just to show you, we brought some delicious homemade crunchies that we're going to enjoy with our coffee. So I'm going to put that over on the side. I think, based on what I've heard and just having a look at the water here, you can already see there's a bit of steam coming out, so that should probably be fine for our coffee now. We might as well, let's just pour it. If I pour a little bit and there's no steam coming out of it, then we know maybe we should let it go a little bit longer. But oh, look at that. Stripe horse, you can. There's quite a few things you could possibly use. I mean, grass is another option. You can use little bits of branches, maybe little twigs, roots, old roots. So there's quite a few things you can use. Let me just move our little rocket stove out of the way. So you can see now, I'll just hold it like this. You might just start seeing the flame in there. So basically, from here on, it will just keep on going. So there's quite a lot of heat. If I hold my hand here, even though there's no flame that's coming out, there's a lot of heat that's concentrated right over here. So while we're having our coffee, we'll just put it back right over there. Oh, hopefully the kettle doesn't fall off. Just need to try and see in. There we go. Might just give it a bit of a go, see if we can get some more fire going. All right, so while we're going to enjoy our coffee and our crunchy and possibly put out this little bit of smoke, we're going to send you across to Tristan. But I hope that all the kids, normally we don't try and rush this. If you let it go for quite a while, you can make more. You can boil your coffee, you can possibly make food on it. So there's so many options for it. But anyway, let's send you across to Tristan.
Indeed, Nikki. I mean, I know that Emma's promised you guys cake and hasn't delivered, but if you guys are going to be throwing crunchies around, you're going to have to start sending them our way, and we can do a trade. I'll get Emma to make cake, and you guys can send crunchies, and we'll trade off somehow. Of course, with social distancing practices in amongst that, and a cup of tea sounds lovely, but particularly in the morning. I'm not a coffee drinker, and so I don't, and I don't typically drink tea other than first thing in the morning. It's very seldom that I drink it in the afternoon. So, but maybe tomorrow morning would be a good thing. I think it's going to be fairly chilly tomorrow morning. Although I spoke to Steph today. A lot of you won't know who Steph is, but Steph used to present. He did all our bushwalks and he runs our operations. But he was telling me that tomorrow is supposed to warm up again. So, you know, I think have escaped this cold front a lot better than a lot of other people. I've seen a lot of nasty temperatures out there. I saw that in Madikwe Game Reserve today, which is another game reserve in South Africa, it was -4 this morning, which is not very pleasant at all, and certainly not ideal for a game drive. So those guys on that side must have been cold. Yeah, exactly. They're not nice at all. As you can see, not much has changed though with these guys. They still sleeping. What's going to happen is they're going to wait until that sun gets a little bit lower, exactly how we saw Hukumuri behave yesterday. You'll find that as it gets cooler, then they're going to start to wake up and probably start to feed. Lisa, you're asking about Hosana. You're saying, why did he leave? Well, this is what young leopards do. So particularly males, they distribute out, and it's a natural system for leopards in order to basically be pushed out of their natal area so that they're not mating with any of their own bloodline. And so he would have been pushed out potentially by any one of the following: Hukumuri, Mulawati, not so much Tingana. He and Tingana, we were still seeing them in sightings together with very little aggression, but you never know what happens in the dead of the night when we're not watching. So it could be Tingana as an outsider. And then you never know what other random leopard is around. We know there's this other male that's on Buffelshoek and moving about a little bit on Djuma recently. I mean, whether he was around when Hosana was here, I don't think so, but you never know. But I think probably for me, the one that really is the one that has pushed Hosana the most would have been Mulawati. I just judging by where Mulawati moves and where Hosana used to hang around, it seems like he would have been the one that would have kind of been putting the pressure. And being a bigger, older, more experienced leopard, Hosana, as much as he would kind of give it back to Tingana, who was, there was a different relationship there because Tingana watched him grow up and there was still that kind of cub aspect to it. I don't think Mulawati would have stood for Hosana as much, and I think that is the reason that he left. We don't know. We never saw him get into a fight. We never saw him chased by Mulawati. We know that he had a few interactions with Hukumuri, but when he disappeared, we didn't see any sign of that. I remember clearly the last day that we saw him. Lauren had him on quarantine. In fact, we had him with the drone, and then Lauren had him after that. As the drive started, we managed to pick him up, and we had him on one of our early morning drone sessions, saw him hunting, and then Lauren followed him all the way down past Treehouse Dam. And then that afternoon, we didn't find him, and in the next updates we got, he was already starting to go back towards the Ottawa area and has been there ever since. So, yeah, I mean, what pushed him there, I don't know. Like I say, Mulawati would be probably... would be my guess, and then Hukumuri just kept him at bay with Anderson a little bit as he went further and further afield, so who knows. Anyway, it's a sad thing. I don't like thinking about it because I really wish he would come back, but there's very, very little likelihood of that. Anyway, while Not Ned decides to reposition and sort himself out, let's send you across to David and see what he's up to.
We just stopped here at a little pan in the middle of the bush, and we are so chilled out here. It's just so beautiful and relaxing. We followed Hukumuri's tracks to this pan, and they've gone off into the block. If we find him, awesome, but even just to be here is so special. And what's super cool is I'm in the footprint of an elephant. The elephant stood here and there, and I'm in its footprint. It's just cool to say you've walked in the footsteps of giants. How big these tracks are. All around these little wallows or these little mud pools, you get so much interesting life. Tracks, bird life, everything is just busy around here because it congregates. Even something like this, it might look like just an ordinary old log, but it's actually a rubbing post that's been used for probably, this could have been here for over 100 years, over 200 years, 300. It's a leadwood, so it's gonna stand the test of time. Can you see that, Alex and I, on this side, how smooth it is? It's just been worn down and rubbed. Generally it'll be warthog that use these, rhino, buffalo even. This one would have been a lot higher. I see a fire came through here years ago and burnt it a bit, so it is a bit shorter, but this is now the perfect height for a rhino. It'll stand over it and scratch its belly and its undersides, in between its legs, the places it can't otherwise reach. And that's why it's become so smooth over the years. So, one of my favorite things to see in the bush, these rubbing posts. Think how many rhino bums or rhino bellies you're touching when you touch that. Oh, it's gonna be chilly this evening, Alex. I can feel it in the air. Turn that radio down, sorry. Well, I think we're going to carry on east. Megan, you like the rubbing post? It is pretty neat, eh? One of those things you just look at it as a stump, but actually it's so smoothed over. I wonder if we can have a quick look from this side, Alex, and you can see, Megan, what I'm talking about from the other side. It's just so smooth from all those many, many years of rhino bellies rubbing over it, that scratching post. Very, very cool. How smooth it is. That's an extremely hard wood. So to rub it down to that point is thousands and thousands of tummy rubs. You can just imagine a big old rhino standing there, smiling from ear to ear. As he gives himself a lovely belly rub. Very cool. Well, we're going to leave our little pan. It's all quiet here other than some tracks. So we're going to see what else we can find. It sounds like Dylan has caught up with a Springbok.
So we've got a little group of Springbok lying down there, a female with some youngsters, and there's some others feeding in the background, moving around in the background. But so that's South Africa's national antelope we're looking at. Oh, I see she's got a bit of a broken horn. It also looks like it's a bit skew. So they're ruminating there. So what you typically see with cattle, where they chew the cud, so they'll feed, regurgitate, chew it, swallow it again, regurgitate, swallow it again, before it actually gets processed properly. So the youngest one is the one, or the two lying on the far right hand side, or to the right of the older female. See, they don't even have horns yet. And then you got the adult female second from left, and then a yearling lying on the left hand side. So these are, a lot of your antelope, out of necessity, are seasonal breeders. So, so they'll have their lambs or their calves going into the start of summer, spring, summer, and that gives the youngsters the optimal chance of surviving due to the mother being able to have good quality feed to supply the milk for the youngster. What you find in species like Springbok, where they really arid area adapted animals, and rainfall can be very, very, very erratic, very localized in arid areas or semi-arid areas. So what Springbok, their adaptation is that they can actually breed at any time there, depending on the rainfall. So if you get a really good rainy season now, or it's a little bit earlier or later, they've actually, or in fact not even just localized, but if you get rain in a different area, these animals are renowned for covering vast distances. In central South Africa, in the Karoo, there's actually well-documented cases of herds of millions of Springbok. I mean, the herds were so big that they would take 3 days to pass a given point, a camping area. And so what that can do is, if the animals have picked up that there's rain somewhere, that could be visual or from scent, then they can move to those areas. And it's just, I mean, think of that adaptation, to know that, okay, there's rain somewhere else. And the thinking is that it's actually based on scent, but also over a shorter distance. They could see, okay, there's rain in the distance there. And our rainfall can literally be that erratic. You could get 100 mil downpour where we're standing here, and half a kilometer away, you could get 3 mils or no rain whatsoever. So these animals, and you tend to find that in your arid area adapted. So the further west you go in the country, the animals have got more of an ability to vary their breeding season like that. Because on the more certain rainfall pattern, you know, on the eastern side of the country, where you know, okay, well, the rain tends to come in the end of spring, beginning of summer, the animals can almost like bank on that to say, okay, we're going to start breeding 6 months or mating 6-7 months in advance, obviously depending what the species is, and we start calving at the end of spring, beginning of summer, got good food available for the mother as well as the youngster, and that's what they stick with. But these guys have just got to be able to move. So what we're looking at, there's a master of adaptation for semi-arid areas. But vigilant the whole time, eh? Just lying there. You never know when a predator's going to rock up. Lion, cheetah. I think we're going to head over to Tristan. We're just going to enjoy what we've got over here in the meantime, and then head over to Tristan and see what he's following up on.
Good luck with your lion searching. As you can see, we're sitting with these two. Little not Ned has woken up a bit. He's looking longingly over Mom's shoulder, but there's been quite a few alarm calls. It's almost like impalas are shouting, go away birds, francolins, and he's very, very, very focused to the south. I don't know if it's maybe a hyena that walked past, or potentially there's something else, but he's quite sort of nervy and just facing sort of southwards towards the area where those alarm calls have been. Kuchava, on the other hand, is not phased at all. She couldn't care less right now. But look at him. Isn't he cute? Hello, boy. He's trying to get to that meat, but Mom is being very uncooperative at this stage. You're not going to be able to sit there, buddy. This is super cool. Oh, how I've missed being with these cats. Look at that. Look, look, look. Look at that. Hello, boy. Are you coming to say hello? Are you going to come and pose for us? Isn't that cool with the two of them together? She's like, do you have to sit all over me? This is super cool. I wonder if he's not going to come down. I think he's just almost saying to Mom, come on. I'm uncomfortable. There's nowhere for me to lie. I want to eat. Please move. Although, that's going to be better there. Is that better, boy? Are you feeling more comfortable with that spot? Isn't that cool? Like I say, leopard on each side of the branch. It's as good as you could ever ask for, that's for sure. Like I say, it's difficult to explain the feeling of sitting here with these guys after a long absence. It's so nice. And I was actually, funny enough, thinking about this today. I was at one point just going through some photos, and I was thinking, you know, how fortunate we are, especially in the current circumstance at the moment. You know, it's a time when the world is upside down. There is chaos and craziness, and people are, you know, their freedom is restricted more than ever. So to have the ability to be out in an area like this, being able to watch wildlife when so many at home wish they could be going out and have the opportunity to do so, but just can't due to the current status of things. It really is a privilege to be out here and to be able to see these things in person and then be able to relate them to all of you at home. I think it's something that maybe a few people wouldn't understand, but I think a lot of people would sympathize with the fact that, for us it's strange to be here with so few cars, but at the same time is just the most unbelievable thing to be able to spend time during a period like this. We are incredibly lucky, and I think the amazing part about it is the ability to share it. Can you imagine if we didn't have that ability? A lot of people, I think, would have, including me, gone a lot crazier by being at home and not being able to get that link to nature and the ability to interact with somebody over a natural world. I think that's the key to it, is that we have this ability to talk to you guys and you guys to talk to us, and we can actually make it an inclusive system where, kids, elderly people that are, from all walks of life, different cultures, races, religions, whatever it may be, can all get involved, and it makes for a system that allows us to really kind of take a break from the craziness that is happening. I mean, we all are allowed to then, for a certain portion of our day, focus on things that are not the craziness that is happening at this stage, and be able to, appreciate the natural world and how it has largely been kind of unswayed by it. The leopards are still living the same dangers that they lived before. They still having to do what they have to do, and nature is kind of just ticking on while we try and figure ourselves out and start to try and hopefully learn from our mistakes a little bit and settle things down. So it really is a privilege to be out here, and like I say, if it wasn't for all of you, it wouldn't be possible. So it's nice that we have this community, and it allows us the opportunities to do this. Patty, you say you completely agree? Well, that's good, Patty. I'm glad that you agree. I'd feel heartbroken if people didn't agree. I mean, like I say, I think because of this weird situation for me now, from being sort of a guide and always being here at Djuma and kind of talking about the wildlife and being on this side of the camera, to being at home and not being able to access the reserve due to what's going on at the moment, so being affected just like everybody else. It's interesting to see both sides of the coin and to see how both sides there's a benefit in what we do, and being at home and being able to connect with this is a pretty cool thing. So I mean, at home we often used to watch it and catch up with everything and just kind of follow along what's going on. So it's very, very cool to have that community, and that, I suppose, that sense of social interaction that we're all being deprived of due to the restrictions that we have at the moment. And and these guys, obviously it's a different story for the animals, but we're lucky in many respects that we can do what we do. I think all is right with the world again for me today. Not so much in the outside of not so much the outside of this particular little bubble that we're in at the moment, but being back with leopards and chilling and taking it easy and meeting new leopards is always a special day. Not Ned is completely unfazed by all of this, as is his mom, Kuchava. She's doesn't seem to be too stressed by what's going on. Look at that, like mother, like son. Right, so if 2 leopards wasn't enough for you guys this afternoon sitting in a tree, we're going to send you up to and beyond Ingala, well, just for another one, just to make sure.
So how lucky are we this afternoon? So I know Tristan found a leopard with a youngster up in the tree, and we also found that Nyala female with her youngster, and you'll see the youngster's actually trying to move an Impala. You'll see the mum is just on the top there. You might just see there's a little bit of sunlight that's coming through onto her chest. She's actually looking down at the youngster as we speak. But we are so lucky. Now this is the one that we came to this morning, and remember there was quite a few hyenas and they moved down, and we said, yeah, maybe later on this afternoon they could possibly come back, and we are rewarded. I mean, just have a look at that mother. Jennifer, I do agree with you. This is absolutely amazing. Now, I just want to point out to Mum, like she's laying down in such a way that the sun is just hitting her on her chin and part of her face. Just look at how relaxed she is. Oh, I think that youngster has to be so careful because it almost looks like she, like is trying to pull that Impala, but there's quite a bit of it that's now hanging down. It doesn't fall out of the tree because there's quite a few hyenas around in the area. She has to be really careful. I think one of the legs might have hooked on a branch and she's trying to maneuver it to free it. Probably to... Oh! So 50, I agree. We are just... this time of the year is probably one of my best times as well. And finding this particular female with her youngster also up in the tree. Normally when they make a kill, it's very seldom that you do find them dragging the kill up into a tree like this. But just have a look at this youngster now. She's trying to maneuver it in a way she can. It's a little bit easy for her. She's actually moved into that little gap for us. Sugar, very good question I have. So there's another female that we refer to as the Shitsalala female, which is a bushveld gardenia. It's quite a beautiful flower, and if you want to go research it, it's a beautiful white flower, the size of a little saucer. Now, her youngsters, the one day we were driving past a tree like this, almost the same size, and the two were playing with each other. Next moment, the one jumped on top of the other one's back, and both of them lost grip, and they fell to the ground. Luckily, it wasn't too high, but the one fell, and the other one fell on top of them, on top of the other one, and then immediately got up and started moving again. So they are pretty tough animals. And I have seen, I'm going to ask Owen just to zoom out, just to show you how high this youngster is up into the tree. So there's the branch, and look at how high it is from the ground. And I have seen leopards from that height, which is probably close to 4 meters, jump out of the tree onto Impala.
Look like the mom has moved.
Say again, Owen? No. I'm just chatting to Owen. She's not. She's only moved it a little bit off to the left, the carcass. But you can see what she's probably trying to do is just position it now. Look at the leg that's dangling down. She's like, no, I don't want to lose that. She's just pulling it up. Because if that drops down, the hyenas are definitely going to go and get it. Sharon, it can happen. I have seen a leopard before that injured his leg but this was quite a while ago when it jumped down the tree, and I think the angle at which it hit the ground, it put quite a bit of strain on the one leg, and so it was limping for I'd probably say the next 4 or 5 days, but afterwards recovered fully from that. But I think it's just the way that they land. If there's maybe like a branch or something underneath that they didn't anticipate while they were falling down, it could possibly injure them. Or if the grass is a bit too tall, then there's maybe rocks, anything underneath. But most of the time, I'm sure they'll be able to direct themselves as soon as they would potentially fall out of the tree, that they can probably try and land on their feet. Just look at Mom. Mom is carefully scanning down, just having a look at this youngster trying to move that Impala. So that since we've gotten here, let's try to move it twice, from this side to that side and back. Just look at Mom at the top. So I think while we're having a look at these 2 leopards, I would definitely like to hear how the 2 leopards are going. And Juma with Tristan.
well, they are taking it a lot easier, and it sounds like that poor Nyala female is having a much harder time than Kuchava. I mean, Kuchava got sat on for a little bit, but other than that, she hasn't had to deal with too much. She's had a chance to just take it quite easy in comparison. Isn't it cool to see how relaxed little Not Ned is? All paws down, not worried about us. We've been starting cars and moving because there's been other cars in the vehicle, in the sighting, and he kind of just opens his eyes every now and then and takes it easy. But otherwise, super, super chilled. And these kind of sightings like this are going to go such a long way to making him a more relaxed individual. When he starts to realize that the cars moving around are not hurting him, not chasing him, not taking his food away, and certainly not trying to do anything to him, then he'll start to realize that he doesn't have to worry as much, and therefore will be a lot more relaxed. And so it's important that at sightings like this you spend as much time as possible. When leopards are young, that's when you kind of got to get them used to the fact that cars are not enemy but friends. And so you got to put in the hard yards when they're small, and it's why it's a bit of a worry with Tundi's cubs, that she's spending so much time in areas where she's just not getting exposure to vehicles at all. Well, the cubs aren't. It's going to make them a little shy when they are into areas where there's a few more cars. So it'd be nice if she brought them to Juma and we could spend a lot more time just kind of getting them used to the sound of the cars and moving around. But isn't that just the most stern stare? Why are we being stared at like that? Are you just curious about us? Oh, he's cute. It's probably because it's because I've said something silly and he does not agree at all. It's also probably due to the fact that there's a hyena walking around behind me as well, that he's watching so intently. But he's got beautiful, beautiful eyes, and his little face is super, super cute. It'd be interesting to know who the dad is of this little one, and actually, if we were going to ever get a good chance, it's going to be now. Hopefully what will happen is between either tonight or tomorrow morning is probably a better opportunity, and I'm sure Dave will come here in the morning, is to see if this little one comes down and to be able to get its scat. And the reason why is because then it can be sent off to Panthera, where they do the DNA analysis on the scat, and they're able to then work out who the father is if they've got a sample for it. Now, interestingly enough, in this area we have a sample for the males that could potentially be the father, Bar Mulawati. I don't think there's any scat sample for him, but we have for Quarantine and Tingana, which means that we could rule those two out, and then it would leave really only one male in this area, and so that would be interesting to know. It's going to be a good opportunity. Obviously, you've got to see this little cub go to the toilet to harvest it, because obviously mom will also go to the toilet, and therefore you could get them confused. So you'd have to just wait until the smallest one does it in front of you, and then come back later and grab it. It's not a nice exercise to do, but it's a fascinating one from a lineage point of view, just to see what's going on and who's actually fathering who. It is a bit of a process, but it's a cool thing to do. Leaping lizard, you say that would be cool to know? It would be very cool. I must actually try and follow up, because we got Tlalambas and Hukamuris, and who else did we get as well? Hosanas. And we sent them all in, but I haven't heard anything back. I must try and find out what's happened with all of that. It was quite a while we did that. Sometimes the scat sample is not great. If it's too dry, then it doesn't work. Or if it gets too old, it doesn't work. So we must actually try to figure out whether or not they were viable samples, and whether or not we have an ID on the dads for those. Tlalamba and Hosana, I mean, we say Tingana, and we saw Tingana with them a lot, but it'll just be really, really interesting to get confirmation on that. You're very serious, aren't you? You like Tumba, your cousin. Serious face. Rebecca, you want to know about Kuchava's father? Awesome. I love talking about him. Mvula is a male that comes originally from the southern parts of the Sabi Sand. He is a male that was born to the outcrop female, and He, in fact, spent time with the outcrop female when I used to work at Lion Sands, so it's pretty cool to know his mother. But he then distributed up this way. He did have a litter mate. I'm not sure where the litter mate ended up, and I can't actually remember the litter mate's name now. But anyway, he moved all the way up into this area. When I got to Chitwa in 2011, beginning of 2011, end of 2010, he was already pushing to start being the dominant male in this area, and he had started hanging around pretty much Chitwa. So he was in Koro, Chitwa, Nets, Vessels, Hofmans a little bit, not too much, the northern side of Hofmans, Djuma, Torchwood, Buffels Hook, into Manyeleti, into Malamala a little bit. So yeah, he had quite a big territory, and he was probably the most seen leopard that we had on the eastern side. When we refer to this northern block, we have east and west, and Triple M, the western boundary for Djuma, is the divide line. Now, west of that was Mafufanyan, and they kind of had quite an overlapping territory around Hofmans, Little Gowrie, Vessels. We used to see Mafufanyan come into that area, and Mvula, they both used to hang around there. But then when Mafufanyan died, Mvula sort of took over that particular section and pushed a little bit further north, because from the south there was a male called Msekwen, which was the father of Anderson. And he was around for a while, and then he disappeared, and then Lamula arrived, and Mvula then stayed up in the northern sectors. And he was dominant until about 2015, when Tingana started to push in a lot more, and he started to then head up into Buffels Hook a lot more and become a lot more nomadic. We used to see him randomly around Djuma, but never really scent marking or anything like that. But he was the most incredibly beautiful leopard. I'll show you a photograph of him now. It's one of my absolute favorite photographs of him. I've shown it a few times. A lot of people will know this photograph that know me, or that have followed me over the years. But I'll try and pull it up now. Where is it? Here it is. So he had the most incredible eyes and this bulky face that, hold on, let me just clean this screen because it's not very clean, it's dusty out here. But do please excuse the cracks. I dropped my phone the other day. I've driven over it recently as well, but I'm going to turn the phone slightly so it doesn't have as much. But that's his eyes. He's got these most incredible bluish tinged eyes. And then this dark nose, and he had this kind of squared off muzzle, which made him look just like Kuchava. If you see side-by-side photos of him and her, they look very similar. Now, if you want to see what he looked like as a male just standing, this is a very, very obviously highly edited image, which was actually taken not far from here. But this is him in his younger days when he was in his absolute prime. Very stocky, very broad-shouldered leopard with this boxy square face, and then, like I say, that incredible sort of eye color that he had. And it's why a lot of the time I didn't like taking black and white photos of him, because it took away his best aspect, which was that those incredible icy blue eyes, which is where he gets his name. Mvula is rain, and the kind of connotation of rain is generally bluish colors, and that's where the kind of name came from. And yeah, he was in this area for a very, very long time, and then eventually, I'll show you a photo of the last time we saw him, which this particular photo doesn't actually show the state of what he was in. He was absolute skin and bone. It was probably one of the most horrible things I've seen, just from a point of view that, it was a leopard that I knew so well, that had walked around and been around and had hung around in this area for so long. And to see him go from that, what I just showed you now, is this beautiful big male leopard that was strong and powerful and in really incredible condition, to what I'll show you now. Sorry, BK, I'm making you bounce all over the round. There we go, found it. So to go into basically a state of old age and skin and bone and basically just a skeletal form. This was the last time I saw him. He died, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 days later. But you can see on his hip area here, there's no muscle mass left there at all. He was just ropey and really kind of towards the end, and you can actually tell by his ears and his face, he'd gone quite grey by then. But the thing about this, as much as it was sad to see this, there was also a part of me that was kind of you celebrate the fact that this male leopard got to a point where he survived. I'll take that away. He survived the odds, made it through from a tiny little cub, which we know the odds are never really good with them, all the way through until he got to the point where he died of old age, which for me is a success, even though it's sad to see them go like that. It's a success to actually watch and witness an animal run through its natural life and die the way that a natural life would be. And I think that was the kind of good part about it, is he wasn't, torn apart by lions, he wasn't torn apart by hyenas, he wasn't at a point where he, got involved in any sort of human-wildlife conflict. He managed to live out this wildlife throughout and provided thousands of people with incredible sightings, incredible memories and photographs, and became basically, like all these leopards in the Sabi Sands, huge ambassadors for their species, and for people like myself and a lot of you that really love leopards to fall in love with the species and to follow them, and if things start to turn for leopards, to be able to be those people that will help in trying to support and trying to get leopard populations back to what they should be. And so, whenever an animal lives like that, and there's so many just from this sector that have done that in the form of Mvula, Karula, Safari, those Mafufunyan, Tyson, there's just Kampan male, there's Kashan male, there's just so many from these Sabi Sand areas that have been these incredible icons that so many people have been afforded the opportunity to follow and learn from and watch. I think they have really shaped a lot of what we as people know about leopards and what we've learned about them, as well as the love that we've carved out for them. So it's pretty cool to have a male like that, and hopefully it answers your question. It was a long-winded one, but he's quite special to me, and that's why I like spending time with her, especially because she comes from Tundi, which is, a lot of you know, my favorite female in this area. So it's like a nice combination, those two cats, and they kind of were right at the start of my guiding career, so I always remember them fondly. Now, sorry, Emma, I didn't hear who I'm sending everyone to, because I wasn't paying attention. All right. Well, we're going to sit here with Gachava and the cub. In the meantime, though, David has found his way towards the hyena den with the little cubs that, well, basically are doing what all of these leopards have been doing for their species by providing cute outlook and a love for people to follow them.
So much fun here at this den, watching these cubs run up and down the termite mound, go head over heels, roll down. Very funny to watch. They are just full of energy this afternoon. What perfect light. Caught them just in time. In this golden hour. So-called golden hour for photography, where the low angle of the sun just creates such a brilliant gold. And in this moody atmosphere of a smoky bush, it makes it even more golden. Redstone, you've asked what do I think of hyena reputations? Do I think they need to be changed? Well, I think Tristan is referring to what happened last night, where Marcel woke me up to some colourful language, let's just say, as he was chasing a hyena out of camp that had stolen the dustbin. He didn't win that one. Still haven't found the dustbin. But in anticipation of me finishing my story, let's quickly send you over to Ngala.
So you'll see there's a hyena that's just gone under the tree. Now, it looked like a leg of the impala that dropped onto the ground. The little one was pulling. And next moment, a big leg, or one of the impala's legs dropped down. So let's see if the hyena will be able to pick it up. Might have been just a branch, but you can see the hyena is trying to reach up to the carcass, but luckily the carcass is still quite a bit up in the tree. So you'll see it's round about, like right there in the crevice of the tree. It's hard to see, but the whole impala is just dangling by a little bit of skin. Just want to see if this hyena picked up anything. No, not yet. Oh, and just have a look at that hyena on the ground as well. I think it might pick up something. Either it was a branch or it could have been that leg. He's actually going straight to where it looked like something dropped on the ground. Let's just have a look. Oh, he's actually picked up something. It is the leg. Let's just follow it. Here we go. Patiently waiting the whole day for a little meal. I'm trying to be quiet so you can hear the bones. You can see Mum is also just looking down, but not too fussed about the hyena. She probably knows it. Okay, it's just luckily just a little bit of the impala that dropped to the ground. Eddie, I think the reason why is so with that impala skin, it's really hard. And the thing is with her being so young, she doesn't really know how to open it properly to get to the meat. So what she's trying to do is she's constantly trying to maneuver it in a way to expose a bit more of the meat. So now, for example, just imagine the skin covers the back. Now she's trying to roll it around to get to the stomach area where the mom opened it up. But then she's getting there and she's fed off the little bit of meat there. Now she's trying to move it to the rump. So she's just trying to reposition it in a way. And what's uncomfortable about it is that that branch isn't exactly horizontal. It's almost like at a 45-degree angle. So for her, it's very uncomfortable to try and maneuver it around one particular branch in order to get to the meat and also pull it at the same time. And I think she's just probably trying to wedge it somewhere where she can have enough support so she can pull out a bit of the meat. This hyena is constantly looking up, just waiting, because any slip up here on that little branch she's standing on, and that whole carcass will fall to the ground. And she has to be careful that she also doesn't fall to the ground. But knowing her, if that would have happened, she'll probably just like run up the tree as quickly as she possibly can. And the hyena won't be too fast to go after her. She'll probably, like the hyena would just focus on going for the carcass. Steal it, like grab it, and maybe run away from here. There's another hyena that just came out from the bush behind us. So let's have a look and see what's going to happen here. The one just picked up the bone and started running. So we are trying to just stay with it. So it just moved in behind the tree. Let's see if the other one tries to catch up. Yeah, just keep it there, because what I'm going to try and do, Owen, just bear with me here. I'm just going to move 2 meters forward, because I can see, but I know from the camera's angle you won't be able to see. The other one, there's a gap right there. have a look up in the middle of the tree. That young female is actually in that fork there. To go, I agree. I think if that carcass falls down, we're going to see more. There's actually quite a few hyena in the area laying down. Some are, of course, a little bit further away than these two here. And I wonder if both of these aren't females, and probably the males are lying down further away, because with hyena, the males don't really have too much of a say within the clan. Just to give you an idea, the lowest ranking female is higher ranked than the highest ranking male. So while we're going to have a look at these hyena and leopard for the next little while, let's send you across to Djuma, where we can have a look at some smaller hyena.
Hyenas are very small indeed. They've just gone back down the hole, so hopefully they come back out in no time. But to carry on with my story about what terrible hyena on Djuma that steal our things, we did get raided last night. They actually came right into the kitchen, grabbed the dustbin and ran out. Now generally we always close up and lock up gates, but this one managed to get in. So around camp, a little bit of ill feelings towards hyena at the moment, but spending a bit of time at this den with these super playful cubs, one cannot help but just fall in love with hyena again. Looks like that cub is suckling. Unfortunately, it's just a bit low for us to be able to see. Megan, you said, oh, naughty hyena, but these cubs do make it better, I agree. They're so cute. Looks like they're both busy suckling on Robin at the moment. She's just a bit low for us to see, but you can see how that back left leg of hers is lifted. You can see the little cubs' backs, and I can hear their little squeaks of glee as they get probably the most nutritious mother's milk in the bush. All that calcium that Robin gets in is sure to produce some super healthy milk. We're going to be here a while. We'll update you if and when they come back out. While we do that, let's send you over to Tristan with the sunset.
Well, I tell you what, you can't ask for a better afternoon, all things considered, being a cold front with hyena cubs that are active, leopards in trees with cubs on two different areas, and then obviously the beauty of Tswalu Kalahari mixed in with that. It really is probably a pretty incredible afternoon. I mean, we haven't had crazy interactions or crazy sighting from a adrenaline point of view, but from a sheer just, I don't know, from a nice, cute point of view, it sounds like there's just been cuteness overloads all over the place at this stage, and now we have the most incredible sunsets. This afternoon, the color of the sun is going to be this rich orange color because Kruger National Park did a big burn yesterday and today, block burns. They do these scheduled burn areas, and so there's a lot of haze in the air today, and that means it's filtering that sun a little bit and softening it out and making for this incredible orange coloration. So not only do we have that sunset, but then you have that combined with two leopards in a tree, and well, you know, it's a pretty special thing to see. And I mean, unfortunately, the cameras just can't do what our eyes can do yet. The dynamic range of our eyes is just so much better than cameras, and so we can see both quite clearly, but for a camera it's a little bit more tricky. But what I wanted to point out now quickly, while they both got their paws down, is just have a look quickly at Kuchava's paws and not Ned's paws, and look at the size difference. There is very little size difference between them already. So it's quite typical of young boys, is that they have big feet, and so they still have a long time to grow. It's a bit like... you can see it's tricky now, but when you go out wider, maybe BK is going to be a little bit better to be able to give you an idea of the size comparison, is that they are incredibly similar in size. It would be really interesting. I would love to see the tracks for these two side by side, just to see how much smaller he is. It's not, I don't think it will be much. I think they are a bit smaller, but not much, particularly on the front paws. And remember, males obviously do get bigger feet, and so this is not uncommon to see. But he is quite young, and so I expected his sort of body structure to be a little bit smaller than what it is at the moment. Crystal, maybe not quite yet. He's still a little small for that. But if he gets a little bit bigger, it's possible that he might nudge her or push her, and she might kind of lose her footing a little bit on a tree. But generally with leopards, they and their mothers, the only time they're really rough or boisterous as young boys is normally when they haven't seen their mom for a bit, and then they kind of want to cement that bond, and they run, and that's normally when they're kind of over a year old, and they've bulked up, and they're big, and they bulky and heavy, and they just don't know their own strength just yet, and they kind of run up to her and bump into her, and she kind of gets sent flying. It's more that at a kill like this, her snarls and her growls, if he was to try and do that kind of stuff, would settle him down right away. He knows that mom is boss, and so he wouldn't test that at all. A different male leopard, obviously different story. I mean, a big male leopard would run up there and try and chase off that kill immediately, but he not so much. Isn't it cute the way that each one of them has found their little spot? I think it's awesome. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. It kind of looks like they joined at the hip and sort of growing off in different directions on the tree. I'm surprised neither one is fed, though. Byron, you're incredibly right. They do make branches look comfortable, don't they? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't think the branch on the left is comfortable for Kuchava. I mean, like that neck being stretched back like that doesn't look that comfortable, but not Ned looks. I mean, he looks as though he's on a feathery, puffy little duvet slash pillow. He looks super comfy, and I'm so amazed at how just through the course of the afternoon his whole demeanor has changed. So it's not that it's us, it's just that it's a repetitive thing now. So from last night, this morning, today, but when we came into the sighting at first this afternoon, he immediately stood straight upright, looked at us, was very twitchy, looked for ways to get out of the tree, but there was hyenas down below, and mom was kind of in the way. And then slowly he started to relax. Then he went up on the branch, and every time we would move in the car, or every time the car would start, or every time we would shift in our seats, he would open his eyes and look at us and pop his head up. But now we've gotten to the point where BK and I both put on our jackets because it's gotten much colder, and he didn't even open an eyelid. He just sat sleeping there, and it's, you know, our jackets make a lot of noise, particularly the synthetic material. It ends up making quite a bit of noise, and yet he's absolutely fine. I think if I started a car, he would open his eyes. But he certainly is calmed right down through the course. And what's also interesting with him is that even this morning, when it was just us here, he was okay. He was on this mound and he was fine. But the moment more vehicles came through, the more kind of unsettled he got. So it just goes to show that it's a slow, gradual process in order to relax a leopard and to get them to the point when they are completely unfazed by life. Now, we're going to sit here and enjoy the last of this incredible sunset with these two amazing leopards. In the meantime, though, let's send you to another relaxed cub up with Nikki at And Beyond Ingala.
So just have a look at how delicate this young female's face is. So she's basically sitting in the crevice of the tree, and she's looking out for the hyena. So the hyena is directly behind us, so she's actually looking over us at the hyena. But how beautiful like if you look at her face, very delicate, Also beautiful eyes. Looks like this combination of a bit of green and yellow. So I just want to point out, Owen, can you focus on this hyena just on our right here? I'm going to lower my head out of the way and just have a look at how patient this hyena is. So this is the same one that picked up a bit of the scraps. So we'll just focus. So he's laying down, or she, I couldn't really see. Laying down right over there, just patiently waiting. And it's quite smart. This hyena is very, very smart. He or she's actually laying down downwind from where this leopard is. So every time something drops onto the ground, he'll be able to smell it. Just patiently waiting. And I can imagine, like from this morning, this hyena would have been meandering around here, just hoping for little bits of scrap that might fall onto the ground. Now earlier on, Tristan was mentioning how comfortable some of the leopards are, and the mother has made herself so comfortable. Dylan, I think they do sometimes. I have seen leopard like playing with something that they've killed, especially if they kill a little bird. When I guided at Avian Pinda, I've seen a young male leopard that killed a water thickney, and it played with the water thickney. But I don't think she was too playful with that particular carcass. It was looking like she wanted to get or tear out a bit of meat. So for her, it was just trying to maneuver it around the branch in order to get a bit of a tight grip on that carcass so she can just pull out a bit of meat. But it's always a possibility. I mean, from the little bit that we saw, that's what we observed, but there's a good chance that she also, it could have been a bit of playful behavior. She's laying down in that crevice. Now look at the mom, which is just off to the left, a little bit higher up into the tree. Now she is, as Tristan mentioned earlier, how leopards can make any tree look comfortable. She looks so comfortable. Look at the way she's just maneuvered herself around that branch. I think both her back legs are actually folded around the branch. More, I do agree, it is. Like, and as Tristan was saying, they just make that branch look super comfortable. And you'll try and do the exact same thing and it will never be the same. So apparently, when I was doing my ranger training course at Avian Pinda, it was a ranger course called Nkwazi. And a lot of the kids that want to see what we do behind the scenes in our ranger training courses, you are most definitely welcome to go have a look at our Wild Child program. But where the story actually came across, so I don't know if it's true or it's just a rumor amongst the rangers, but one of the rangers that eventually qualified apparently was able to sleep up in the tree and make himself as comfortable as that leopard. How true that might be, I am not sure. I tried it before and it looked like I just finished a 120-mile marathon afterwards. So I wonder with the youngster looking up the whole time, if she might be thinking to move closer. She might just be thinking of going up towards Mom. Here we go. I wonder what the little one's going to do. So she still needs to move around. Well, she's going to probably try and jump to get up to Mom, which is not going to be the greatest of ideas. So this is basically if Owen and myself had to climb a tree. I'm sure Owen, with all his experience, would have probably been laying at the top, and I would have been trying to climb in from the bottom like this. Alright, so we're going to try and see if we can reposition, because both of them are now on the same branch, to see where she's going to lay down in relation to Mom. But while we do that, we're going to send you across to Tristan.
I have, actually, a few times. There was one time where I just was joking around, and I can't remember who it was, but it was one of you. Then went and photoshopped a leopard coat all over me and a tail, which I did laugh at. And then I have another one from when I was my early days at Singita. I climbed up a massive tree and ended up in the tree, looking like a leopard. So I've done it a few times. It certainly is not that comfortable, I must be honest with you. I don't know how leopards do it. I didn't find it particularly comfortable, but then again, I'm not really a leopard, so maybe just don't quite get the way to actually do it properly. I can't remember what I actually did with the photo of the one from Singita. The one from Singita was pretty cool. It was a nice shot of wait, there it is. You can see I had such a cool short stand, and I looked so much younger at that stage. It was, if you ever wanted to see me without a beard, this is what I used to look like. I grew a beard just after this. This was in my really early days of guiding. So that was me hanging out and pretending like I was a leopard. This is, I don't know. So this was 11 years ago, which is a long time ago. But yeah, that's what it is. Been doing it for a while now, so ended up having a beard. And like I say, I grew a beard just after this photo was taken. I ended up growing a beard, and like I say, I've had it ever since. So I feel like I was before the trend. I wasn't one of those that started only recently. It's been a long time since I've had this particular beard. But we can see we have changed position a little bit, because little Not Ned decided to go up the tree and is checking us out through the leaves. And it's such a cute little photo of him kind of peering through the bushes. And as Emma points out, the shock on his face is the same as hers at me not having a beard and looking far younger than I do now. Definitely less grey hairs than I have now, that's for sure. But yeah, long time ago. That feels like a age ago, that's for sure. It's crazy to think that in those days, how many leopard sightings since that day have I been able to see, which is a crazy thing to think. The other day, was it you, BK, that asked me how many I've seen?
Yeah, it was.
BK asked me, he's like, how many leopard sightings do you think you've had? And it's an interesting question. I've never really counted, but it must be a fair amount. And just at Wild Earth, I reckon there's a decent number. Probably could check it out off the sighting sheets that we have as to how many I've had since I've been at Wild Earth. But then you kind of extrapolate that over the course of 11 years. It's a fair number, that's for sure, and I've been fortunate to see many, many individuals. I remember when I went to Lion Sands and I started working there, I used to count all the individual leopards that I had seen as I would go through my kind of year, and then I would work out all these different ones, including the cubs and various other things. And by the time I had gotten to Lion Sands, I think I'd reached about 130 or 140 different individuals. So since then, it must be more. I don't even know how many it is now, but it's within the Sabi Sands, but it's a lot. And like I say, I'm under no illusion that it's an incredibly privileged place to be and to have spent time with these guys as much as I have over the number of years. It's one of the reasons why I think the Sabi Sands is always going to be so special for me. No matter what happens in life and no matter where I end up or what I do, this decade of spending time with leopards and watching so many different ones and learning lessons from them has always been an absolute privilege and always will be. It's not to say that I don't like other animals and don't like exploring other reserves, but everyone that knows me well and is friends and family knows that every reserve I go to, it's always a question of, are there leopards? And if so, are they viewable? And when we go, even if they're not seen often, we try very hard to try and find them just out of luck or chance, you know. So it's a bit of an addiction, but it's a good addiction to have. And like I say, it's always a good day when you can add a new one. So today's been a good day for adding this little one. I've actually added 2 new leopards on this little stint, which has been really, really nice. I've still got a number to tick off. I've got both Tswalu's cubs. I've got Mulawati. I've got Kara. So there's a number of them that still need to show face in the next couple of days before I leave. All right. While we sit here and enjoy this little one being cute as cute can be, and showing off every angle possible, let's send you back to David with his cute little bundles of joy, who are probably showing off as much as they can as well.
I can only still see ears and the tops of their heads. Looks like they're still busy suckling on ribbon. And every now and then hear a little satisfying squeak still. What an action-packed afternoon with all that leopard activity. And of course the cubs. It's so lovely to see the youngsters and not just the adults. Cubs all around. Nesh, you've asked, will our Hyena cubs eat bones as well at this age? They're still a little bit young. They live exclusively... Listen to that. Can you hear the squeaking? I just heard a bit more squeaking there. They live exclusively on milk at this age. They'll only start eating solid food when they're a little bit older. I'd say around 8 months. They can maybe start venturing out to kills and they'll start getting in some meat and bone. And then go off milk completely, a little bit older than that, around a year, 12 to 14 months in my experience. So for now, Nesh, only the most nutritious mother's milk. While we wait for the bundles of cuteness to finish their delicious milk meal. Ooh, wait, there's a little bit of cute action here. Those are some serious teeth. They are just so cute. After a feed, maybe it's going to come make a little poo. Miss Anna Mandris, she said the pale faces get you, they're just so cute, and they do have rather pale faces in comparison to their body. That dark fur of theirs at this age. They start developing their typical spotted pattern as they get older, but their feet and legs remain quite dark while they're still young. After their little feed, looks like they're full of energy again. Up the termite mound they go. Typical youngsters, just living the dream. Can't emphasize enough what a privilege it is to spend so much time with hyena cubs. It's not typical, it's not normal to be able to find a den and have a female as relaxed as ribbon. It's just such a privilege. And as always, we need your support to keep on bringing you these incredible feeds. So don't forget to follow that link at the bottom of the page. We really appreciate the support. As these hyena cubs explore, I believe Dylan is also out and about exploring, so let's go over to Tswalu Kalahari and see what he's up to.
We've all been waiting with bated breath for this sighting. It's a little flower. It's not a hyena, it's not a leopard in a tree, it's not an elephant, it's not a cheetah, it's not a meerkat, but it is an absolutely gorgeous flower. What's really cool about this is, so we call it a baboon's onion. In Afrikaans, a bobbejaan eitjie, which means a baboon's onion. And it is super palatable, so a lot of animals will dig this up. I'm absolutely surprised to find it now because this is so late in the season for them, and to see them still flowering now is quite crazy. It has the most subtle perfume you can imagine. It's the sweet, sweet, sweet scent, and I just wish there was some way I could convey that across this to everyone. But that perfume is used for attracting moths, these little hawk moths that will come in and pollinate it. I don't even know which one pollinates it. It might be a silver-striped hawk moth, but I'm not sure. But it's just, we are so lucky to find this now. And so, unfortunately for this plant, with these temperatures that we're having, it's probably going to be quite late now in terms of the time of the year to get any pollinators. There's very, very few moths in that around now. So, but it's so special to find this, and we're very, very lucky. In fact, I think the plant's even luckier that it hasn't been dug out, because when the baboons or porcupines get it, they actually eat the corm completely. Interestingly, the scientific name it's named after Thomas Baines, the early traveller in South Africa. And it's just the coolest little flower. One of the very, very pretty ones that we got at Tswalu. One of the many pretty ones we got at Tswalu. But anyway, while we have that, speaking of names, please don't forget, we need names for this little person for tomorrow morning. Once we have names coming in, Yandre and I will select one, and that will be the guy that will join us for the next couple of drives. So there we go. Beauty and the Beast. I'm not sure which one is which, but let's try. So Yandra and I, we're going to move on and see if we can find something slightly larger for you, and hold our breaths and hold thumbs for us. And in the meantime, head back to Ngala and see what's happening on that side.
So we just got the mother here, so she's gone all the way down to the carcass where the youngster headed in or maneuvered it into that fork of the tree, and now she's going to also have a bit of a meal. Now I wanted to point out, well, the youngster where she's actually laying down at the moment. So Owen, would you be able to follow it up, and then we'll come back to the mom. But look at how high this youngster decided to go in. So we're going to go up the tree now, up all the way to the top. And right over there, just have a look how she actually just basically spread herself over that branch. She's put a leg on either side of the branch, and very, very comfortable. And then right underneath the mom, as we speak, there's also a hyena just at the base of the tree. So look right over there. So she's there just probably 3 meters up in the tree, and then down here this hyena is just waiting for any possible scrap that might fall onto the ground. Let's maybe go up to that mother again. It does look like she is pulling a bit of the carcass, so there might be some scraps that would fall to the ground soon. We're going to just be quiet. There's another hyena. There's actually 3 other hyenas coming in. Park, I agree. Like, there's just so many hyenas. There's earlier on there was a few that went and laid on the outskirts, but these look like completely different ones to the ones we saw earlier. Except the other one, the one they're basically at the base of the tree now with the leopard. That one has been here for probably the whole afternoon and this morning. But the others have just arrived. So any bit of scrap that's going to fall, it might even be that once it falls, there could be a bit of we might even find that these hyenas would try and fight each other for little bits of scrap that would fall onto the ground. But I think while we're looking at the more aggressive hyena, let's send you across to the lesser aggressive hyena, the small babies, with David.
How cute is this little guy chewing on sticks? Now, I've said cute a few times this afternoon, but there's just no other word. I've just watched Ribbon walk off into the bush. He's just out of frame there. Hard to see. She just stopped. I think she's having one more look and listen to make sure there's no nearby danger before she leaves her den. Not sure where she's going. Mina Moo, you've asked Very interesting question. How long does it take for a hyena mom to heal after such a stressful birth? And I'm not sure. It would be very hard to really see or document that. But in my experience of being out here and seeing hyenas, they are such tough animals. I'm sure they're back to normal in no time. They can't afford to lay up for 3 weeks and heal. They have to carry on with life, so I would assume that they heal very quickly. It's amazing. I've just gone back in the hole now, but let's listen to Ribbon. She's calling a bit. And off she goes. It's incredible. The vocal repertoire of hyenas is almost mind-blowing when you spend time with them. It's so much more than just a call. They really seem to mean something with everything they say. It's like they speak to each other. Out of all the animals I've spent time with out here in the bush, all the species, hyenas more than any of them seem to communicate very distinctly with each other. That whooping that you're hearing, it carries a very long way, up to about 5 kilometers, and it's very easy to locate the hyena with that sound. And clan members definitely talk to each other and communicate that way. The typical whooping you've just heard is her informing other members of the clan of her whereabouts and potentially what she's going to be doing. And if another hyena from a different clan, kind of like an imposter, were to call, all the hyenas in the area would hear that and respond to it to intercept perhaps and repel that hyena. And what you also didn't hear right before she left, right before we went live again, was that as she left the den, she gave a very interesting little whoa to her cubs. And it's like they literally just stopped in their tracks, looked at her, and ran back to the den, sat down, and watched her walk away. And it's like she was telling them, I'm going out for the evening, I might go get some water, go get some food. I know I'm using a lot of words, but it literally appears to be that specific, and the cubs knew exactly what she was doing. So, an incredible species, and I love their vocals. That sounds like Tristan is enjoying the evening sky, so let's send you over to him.
We are indeed. I think it goes quite well with the hyena call that you just heard. This sort of crescent moon that we have at the moment. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight, especially because the color in the sky below it is just unbelievable. So really nice to kind of see an up close of the moon. But as we come out, what you'll see is that there's this incredible kind of burnt orange coloration that's on low on the horizon. You can see as you kind of drop down from the blues, so that orange starts to come through. And that's what I was talking about earlier with the dust in the sky, or the smoke, is that you're getting that incredible coloration as a backdrop to these two leopards sitting in the tree. Little Not Ned has just woken up. Now he's come down the tree a little bit, and he once again is almost looking at Mom as if to say, okay, you've been sleeping there the whole day, it's time for you to move now, enough of this. And you can see it's quite dark, so we're going to have to go into our infrared. BK, you ready? Ready, there we go. So BK is going to go into infrared now. There we go. Much better, can see nicely. Now what's amazing is while we've been sitting here, there's been a bit of a wind that's been blowing, and the wind is actually carrying ash from those fires inside Kruger. Now I was saying to you that some of the fires are around Skakuza, and Skakuza from here is about, if you go down the boundary, which isn't very far, you're probably looking at about 28 kilograms. Is he biting her foot? There we go, there's playing with the head, was what we were talking about earlier. But there's ash blowing from that fire all the way to where we are. So that ash is being carried over 20 kilometers into the Sabi Sands. Is that not just the most incredible thing to think that a fire is going that far? And it just shows you why in windy days fire can be so dangerous. Look at this, isn't this cool? What are you doing, silly sausage? Well, their mom's foot is now going to be bitten. Just listen to her, she's snarling at him. I mean, I think it's fair enough though. She's lying all over the food, so if you don't want to move, then I'm going to eat your foot instead. But you can see how sharp those claws are. I mean, obviously it's a bit macabre that it's playing with an impala head, but you can see how sharp the claws are when he hooks his claws into that impala, how quickly they grab on, and how he actually has to kind of shake it almost to get it off. And that's vitally important when they hunt. They need these incredibly sharp claws, otherwise... Look, now the two of them are playing together. Oh, listen to that. Can you hear the little chuff sounds? So did you hear, every now and then you'll hear them making what's called a chuffing noise, which is a sound, and that sound is when they're just talking to each other in soft little contact calls. They're obviously close, they don't need to worry. I'm just going to keep quiet so if they do it again, you'll hear it. Of course, they're being quiet now. It's very cool to watch though, watching him trying to figure out what's going on. And you see how she gets involved when she feels like he's pulling the carcass downwards and potentially could drop it. Look how she grabs it just to make sure that that carcass isn't going to drop. So she's almost just preempting him potentially pulling it, because what if he pulls it from the head like that, he could potentially slide the whole carcass off the V and therefore drop it down, and obviously the hyenas will steal it in a second. So what she's doing on top is she's almost just putting weight on it so that as he pulls and he feeds, he's not actually risking the carcass being lost, which is incredibly clever from her. It's not something you see all that often from leopards. Generally, as we've seen with that Nyala females, they let their cubs kind of flail around a little bit, and only when it starts dangling do they run up and try grab it. But in this case, she's almost being preventative rather than reactionary. Now, you might have heard a noise in the background. That's coming from Chitwood at the lodge. It's the door of the hangar where the plane hangs around. So I think they're busy closing up there for the night. Alright, we're going to carry on sitting here. There's a hyena that's approaching now, and so while we watch Not Ned negotiate his meal, let's send you back across to and beyond Ingala, where it sounds like that impala carcass is dangling by the skin of its teeth.
So the mother has just pulled up the carcass a little bit higher, but it's so interesting. There's actually 5 hyenas waiting at the base of the tree for some scraps as we speak. There's actually more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hyena. So just to show you, have a look at how many hyena are waiting. There's 1 laying at the back, 3 here, 2 in front of us. I'm just going to try and position my head out of the way so everyone can see. Just go a little bit more. This is absolutely insane to watch. 2 leopards up in the tree, beautiful African sunset, 6 hyena, half an impala. young leopard. I think we're just trying to see what's well if we can. Stripe horse, that's a very good question. So normally, to tell the difference is you have to look a lot in regards to any of the facial features. Normally, the older leopards get the more scars, especially around the ear and also around the eyes, like as they start dominating or taking over territories. But it is hard. I mean, it's not like even as skilled professionals, if they go out in the bush and they try to identify a leopard that they have no idea or might even not know anything about it, it will be really hard. So normally how we can use it, so up to a year, it's quite easy because you'll know the youngster sticks with mom. So normally after a year and a half, 2 years, that's when mom would push them away. So if the leopard's all by itself and it's not joining up to another female, let's say if it's a young female that we're trying to identify and she's not joining up, then because of that behavior, we can say, all right, she's either going to be a year and a half to close to 2 years, or maybe she's older than that because she's not with her mum. Then we're going to see if we do follow her, is she territorial? Is she going to go around marking any of the bushes and that? If she doesn't, then we know she's probably in a period between 2 years and maybe 3.5, 4 years where she's not necessarily dominant. She's just trying to survive until she becomes strong enough, powerful enough to take over territory. But then normally from that age onwards, you might see that a leopard becomes really dominant. And of course, if you do find a lot of scratches, a lot of scars on her, you can then start seeing how old she might be. But it's always a rough estimate of what we think it could possibly be, instead of being 100% sure. I mean, for us, the only possible way that we know it is because of some of the rangers that have been here, and some of the trackers that have been here have been longer than most of the leopards, or basically all the leopards that are here, because leopards, especially in nature, don't really get a lot older than 14 years. Sometimes it's a push up to 18, 19 years, but it's around about the 14-year bracket if she's really lucky. And so most of it is just general knowledge of actually knowing that individual. Sometimes leopards could move into this area that we've never even seen before, and that might make it a little bit more difficult. So I think what we'll do from here, because it is getting a little bit dark, we'll probably just leave them be, maybe carry on, see if there's any other animals possibly in the area, maybe signs of lions. I do know everyone's probably keen knowing what's happening with that subadult male, but then you'll have to wait till tomorrow to hear what's happening. But while we do that, let's send you across to Juma, to Tristan.
Are still balancing out. I mean, they're not really feeding at this stage. They're kind of just balanced, and everyone's trying to find a spot, but little Not Ned has got himself into a bit of a tangle. So Mom is facing towards us, and he's kind of on top of her. And I think she's really concerned about him actually dropping it. I suspect that there's been a past indiscretion here where he has dropped a carcass before, and there's not much trust from Mom at this stage about his ability to feed without making a bit of a mess. But what is really interesting is, I was talking about it earlier, it's very, very, very seldom that you see a leopard feeding on a carcass together or in the exact same spot. Normally what will happen is Mom will move slightly and the cub will feed, and then the cub moves and the mom feeds. But in this situation, Kuchava is actually lying on a piece of the carcass, and it's difficult to notice from here because of the branches and all the other things, but they're actually head to head at the moment. And I can't see if she's eating, but if she is, it would be a fairly unusual thing. It's not something that you would see very often. I think her head is just slightly off to the left. Yeah, her nose is just off to the left. So she's just sleeping, almost as if to say, listen, buddy, you're going to drop this, and with hyenas lurking below, we're not going to risk it at this stage. But the hyenas are clever. I mean, they've been here the whole day. There you go. I think this is June. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might be June. The top of the right ear is missing. So I know the guys that know the hyenas a little bit better, which actually reminds me it's probably a good time to punt the fact that Lauren will be live this evening with on Instagram Live. So straight at the end of our drive, as we wrap, Lauren will be doing her Instagram Live, and she'll be talking about the hyenas of Juma and the clan. So, I mean, she'll probably know this hyena much better than I would, but she'll be chatting about that. So you can just go onto Instagram and join in that. I think David will also be a part of the conversation as well. So should be an interesting evening chat. It's just going to be Lauren solo. David shying away from the limelight after his introduction yesterday. But yeah, so it will be on hyenas for those of you that want to join in that chat. Yes, the celebrity fame that David has now got is too much for one day. Too much in 24 hours. It's just so peaceful sitting with these guys. Why Lewis? You're asking why leopards are called leopards. Right, now we've got to get in our Latin lesson for the day. I'm probably going to say this all wrong, but we will basically try and break it down for you. I've got to remember now the exact words. Just give me 2 seconds to get through this. It's to do with their scientific name. And so it's like I say, Latin, which basically the leo part of the name is lion, and pardus, which is obviously its scientific name is Pantheropardus pardus, is basically a panther. So it's lion panther would be the basic breakdown of the name itself. But why it got that name is probably due to the fact that it was a kind of cross between the two, with the fact that it has the golden sort of coloration of the lion, and has a big cat build. But panthers, in past times, I think, and I'm not 100% sure on this, were also, it was basically referred to black leopards in a way. So panther has always been a black leopard, but I think there was a situation where at one point panthers were basically spotted cats, so cats that had spots on them, they were referring to them as that, and so it became, spots mixed with the tawny coat was a lion panther, and therefore leopard, and that's where it comes from. So it's basically, I think it's Latin or Greek, or one of the two, same one and the same thing, I suppose, but that's where the name comes from. Greek, there we go, for their name. So it basically directly translates to lion, panther. But why they would have given that name, I'll have to go back to the Greeks and ask them exactly why. It's like a lot of the other things that are named out here, particularly in Afrikaans. I always wonder about who named some of the things. A leopard in Afrikaans is a leopard, and a very literal translation of that in modern Afrikaans is basically lay is lazy, and perd is a horse, so it would essentially be a lazy horse, and a cheetah would be a hunting lazy horse, essentially. I mean, it's not actually why it was called that, but I think through the years, obviously there's been a development of Afrikaans and Dutch and these kinds of things, and maybe the actual reasons have been changed a little bit, but you've got that, you've got even giraffe called a camel horse, a camel pad, so there's quite a few interesting names out there, but it would be nice to go back and ask them why they decided to go with that. But I suspect the lion portion of it is the tawny color versus, and the fact that it's a big cat, whereas the sort of leo part of it, and then part is just being a panther, differentiating them from the lions. All right, good. Now, Emma, I'm very, very sorry. My comms are for some reason breaking up badly all of a sudden, so I'm not picking up all of what you're saying. Can you just repeat? Okay. All right. Well, while we sit here and take it easy and look at this beautiful little cub who's now posing perfectly where his mom was, let's send you across to Dylan, whose shame is braving the cold as he makes his way home.
So we've had a fairly quiet drive, apart from some really cool plants, people, flowers, but that black-sword lapwing was awesome to see. Straight down the road towards the mountains, there's a herd of giraffe moving in the distance over there. And look at this backdrop. So the reason we're ambling down here now, there's a waterhole just ahead of us. And we're taking a chance now that there may be some game down there. I think the giraffe have already been down to drink. But look at that dragon's back of the mountains as well. An ancient landscape, this, eh? Ancient. Taggers, this is wow, just wow, absolutely. One of my favorite things to do here, you know, outside of work hours, is just walk up in these hills. And on many occasions I've actually taken people up there as well. And it simply takes your breath away, you know, when you're up there, especially at sunset, or if you can get up even before sunrise and you're on top of these mountains. It's yeah, there's no words. And I always see it as just so much to explore. You know, it'll take a lifetime to cover every one of these valleys and rock faces and Giraffe girl, I think your name says it all. That your heart should be happy having seen those giraffe. That's beauty, eh? And I'm happy that you're happy. The silence. Eh? So we're going to start heading on home. Temperatures are dropping. We're going to swing past the waterhole on the way back. Maybe we're lucky there. But in the meantime, head over to Impala. I think they're wrapping up as well. But it's been awesome having you with us as well.
So just as Dylan, we're also starting to make our way back, but what an amazing afternoon and morning. We've been so lucky. I mean, if I can just touch on a few things that we've seen. We were able to see the lion cubs this morning with the mother. We saw a troop of baboons, giraffe, elephants drinking. We saw buffalo. I did say buffalo, did I? More impala. And then, of course, quite a few hyenas and leopards up in the tree. And then, for all the kids, we were able to make that rocket stove. So hopefully, maybe the next time, there could be a little surprise on what's going to be our next activity we're going to do. But please stay tuned in for tomorrow, because tomorrow Eric's driving. And for those who want to know what happened to the young subadult male, also have to stay tuned in for tomorrow morning. So I'm going to leave it at that. I just want to say thank you to everyone. So while everyone is left in a bit of anticipation there, just want to say thank you to all the guides and all the viewers for watching. We're going to send you across to Tristan. Hope everyone has a lovely day, or if it's evening, that you all sleep well.
Well, we're still sitting with our leopards, and it's difficult actually at the moment to make out what is, well, who is who and what is actually going on. It's just kind of spots surrounding an impala carcass, and there's legs and tails and things hanging from all directions. I know Kuchava is kind of at behind the cub and facing our way, but I can't quite make out where her head is in relation to where his is. I think she's almost sleeping on his back at this stage. I can just see one of her front legs and her tail kind of sticking out in the back, but everyone has made themselves comfy. There's really been very little eating going on. The cub kind of just gave up after a while and went back to sleep. I think he was more trying to push his mom out the way so he could get the comfy spot to sleep, because he's now muscled in exactly where she was the whole afternoon and has got his head kind of over his paws and looks very, very comfortable with his little fat belly that's sticking out over the branch. Oh, there's her nose. So you can see she's kind of sleeping over the back of him at this stage. But look at that little tummy. Full of Impala and happiness. Awesome. It's as good as it gets. That's for sure. I think we've all had a wonderful day. Like I said, I think the really nice thing lately is we've just had so much diversity in what we've been seeing. You know, the addition of Tswalu Kalahari just gives such a different element to what we see here. And then, you know, Juma has pulled up its socks in the last, I would say, 4 days and really has come out swinging with lots of cool sightings. And obviously Avian and Gala has just continued on their run of really epic stuff. And so it's just been these kind of super diverse, super interesting drives with lots of different moments that I think everybody can kind of gather something from it. So there's a little bit of something for everyone, which has been nice. I really enjoy when we have drives like that where we get to spend time with all kinds of different creatures and, you know, discuss all kinds of different topics. Monique, no, we don't need to worry about the hyenas at the bottom of the tree. It's part of a leopard's life. When they've got kills, they're going to be harassed by hyenas, particularly in an area like the Sabi Sands where there are a lot of hyenas around. So as long as they're in the tree like this, they're fairly safe. Now, if, let's say, hypothetically, not Ned would fall and land on the ground and run, and the hyena would run up to it. It has the ability and the speed and the build already at this age to probably bound quicker than the hyena will get to it and get up into a tree and out of the way. When they're very, very small and they struggle to climb, it's very different. Then they would be quite unsafe. But Kuchava would also shoot down that tree and come to a cub's defense. So you don't need to worry too much. The hyenas also aren't really here to attack the leopards. They're here to get the food. What they're waiting for is a leg to drop or the entire carcass or bits of it that they can then feed on. They're not really worried about the leopards as much. And you can see that the leopards come up and down. You know, this morning we got here and little Not Ned was not in the tree. And there was hyenas all around. We got here, the same hyenas are sitting in very much the same places, and he's up the tree. So, you know, they're generally not too phased about the leopards. They're more worried about the meat itself. And so, no, we don't need to worry too much. Obviously, there's always an element of risk when predators interact, and something could happen, but it's a very, 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 very low percentage and not something that is uncommon, and ultimately something that they deal with pretty much daily out here. So, should be all good. I don't think, like I say, that any of you need to worry too much about this little one and Mom. I think they'll be absolutely fine. But what a wonderful afternoon it's been with them. And like I say, tomorrow morning they should still be here. And it'll just allow another drive just to get this cub even more relaxed and just keep the kind of habituation process going. But it is that time to say goodbye. Hopefully you all enjoyed the afternoon. It seems, like I say, to have been a bumper day. So from all of us, from all different parts of South Africa, it's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll see you tomorrow morning on our sunrise safari.